Listen to me. I need you to hear me, not just with your ears, but with your soul. Everybody wants freedom. You want financial freedom. You want time freedom. You want peace of mind. But let me tell you something. Backhand index pointing right freedom don't come from excuses. Backhand index pointing right freedom comes from accountability. Yeah, I said it. Oh. You keep blaming your past. You blaming your environment. You blaming your friends, your parents, your situation. But at some point, you got to look in the mirror and say, it's on me. Because the moment you say it's on me, collision, that's the moment your life changes. You want to be great in 26? Then stop waiting for motivation. Because motivation comes and goes. But accountability, that's a decision. It's waking up at 5 a.m. when nobody is watching. It's doing the work when you don't feel like it. It's saying backhand index, pointing right out, we get it done, no matter what. What? Let me tell you something real. When you hold yourself accountable, you stop making excuses, you start making progress, you stop depending on others, you start building power. And that power, fire, that's freedom. Some of you want success, but you still negotiating with your discipline. You say, I'll start tomorrow. No, tomorrow is why you're still stuck today. You don't need another plan. You don't need another video. Backhand index pointing right, you need accountability. When you say, I am responsible for my life, you take your power back. Nobody can stop you. Nobody can break you. Because now, flex biceps, you control your outcome. So I'm gonna leave you with this. When you want freedom as bad as you wanna breathe, when you hold yourself accountable every single day, backhand index pointing right, that's when your life changes. Backhand index pointing right, that's when you win. Backhand index pointing right, that's when you win. Backhand index pointing right, that's when you become unstoppable. Accountability is ownership of your life, and ownership is the line that separates people who stay stuck from people who rise. When you truly take ownership, you stop seeing life as something that happens to you and start seeing it as something that responds to you. That shift is not small, it is everything. It changes how you think, how you act, how you respond to pressure, and how you build your future. Most people misunderstand accountability. They think it is about blame, punishment, or admitting when something goes wrong. But real accountability is much deeper than that. It is about accepting that every result in your life, good or bad, has your fingerprints on it in some way, and that means you also have the power to change it. When you own your life, you stop giving power away. Every time you blame your circumstances, your past, or other people, you are handing over control. You are saying, oh, my life is in someone else's hands. And if your life is in someone else's hands, then you are stuck waiting. Waiting for them to change. Waiting for things to improve. Waiting for luck to show up. Ownership destroys that waiting mentality. It replaces it with action. It says, even if I didn't create this situation, I'm responsible for what I do next. That mindset is powerful because it puts you back in the driver's seat. Ownership also forces you to confront the truth about your habit decisions. It is easy to dream about success, but it is harder to admit when your daily actions do not match your goals. Accountability means you no longer lie to yourself. If you say you want success but waste hours every day, ownership calls that out. If you say you want growth but avoid discomfort, ownership exposes that gap. It is not comfortable, but it is necessary. Growth does not come from comfort. It comes from honesty. And accountability is honesty applied to your own life. When you take ownership, excuses lose their power. Excuses are comforting because they protect your ego. They give you a reason why things are not working without requiring you to change. But excuses also trap you. They keep you in the same patterns, the same struggles, the same results. Accountability removes that safety net. It says, no more excuses, only solutions. That does not mean life becomes easy. It means you become stronger. Instead of asking, oh, why is this happening to me? You start asking, what can I do about it? That question alone can change everything. Ownership is also about consistency. It is not something you turn on and off depending on how you feel. It is a daily commitment. It is waking up and choosing to do what needs to be done, even when you do not feel motivated. It is following through on your promises to yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust. And that trust becomes confidence. Not the kind of confidence that comes from talking, but the kind that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. There's a different level of strength. Taking ownership also changes how you deal with failure. Instead of seeing failure as proof that you are not good enough, you see it as feedback. You analyze it, you learn from it, you adjust. Accountability removes the emotional weight from failure and turns it into a tool for growth. You stop running from mistakes and start using them. That is how progress happens. The people who succeed are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who take responsibility for their failures and use them to improve. Another powerful aspect of ownership is control over your mindset. You cannot control everything that happens in life, but you can control how you respond. Accountability means you take responsibility for your reaction, your attitude, and your perspective. If something goes wrong, you do not let it define you. You choose how you interpret it. You choose whether it becomes an excuse or a lesson. That level of control is what creates resilience. It allows you to keep moving forward, even when things are difficult. Ownership also strengthens discipline. When you know that your results depend on your actions, you become more intentional. You start to value your time more. You become aware of how you spend your energy. You stop doing things that do not serve your goals and start focusing on what actually matters. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to suffer. It is about aligning your actions with your priorities. And accountability makes that alignment clear. It also impacts how you handle opportunity. When you take ownership, you stop waiting for the perfect moment. You create your own opportunities. You take initiative. You step outside your comfort zone. You understand that no one is coming to save you. And that realization is not depressing. It is empowering. It means you have everything you need to start. You do not need permission. You do not need approval. You just need to act. Ownership also improves your relationship. When you hold yourself accountable, you stop pointing fingers and start looking at your own role in conflicts. You communicate better. You listen more. You take responsibility for your words and actions. That builds trust with others, just like it builds trust with yourself. People respect those who own their mistakes and take responsibility for their behavior. It shows maturity and strength. There is also a level of freedom that comes with ownership. At first, accountability feels heavy. It removes all the excuses. It forces you to face reality. But over time, it becomes liberating. You realize that you are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a creator of your outcomes. That realization gives you confidence. It gives you clarity. It gives you direction. You stop feeling stuck because you know that every step forward is in your control. Ownership also requires courage. It takes courage to admit when you are wrong. It takes courage to change your habits. It takes courage to step up and say, this is my life, and I'm responsible for it. But that courage pays off. It builds character. It builds resilience. It builds a mindset that is focused on growth instead of comfort. When you fully embrace accountability, you start to see patterns in your life. You recognize what works and what does not. You become more self-aware. That awareness allows you to make better decisions. You stop repeating the same mistakes because you understand the root causes. You become proactive instead of reactive. You start designing your life instead of just living it by default. Ownership also aligns your actions with your value. When you are accountable, you cannot hide from who you are, what you believe. You have to live it. That alignment creates a sense of purpose. You are not just going through the motions. You are intentional about your choices. You know why you do what you do, and that gives your life meaning. It also changes how you measure success. Instead of comparing yourself to others, you focus on your own progress. You take responsibility for your journey. You track your growth. You celebrate your wins, no matter how small. That mindset keeps you grounded and focused. It prevents you from getting distracted by what others are doing and keeps your attention on what you can control. Ownership is not a one-time decision. It is a continuous process. There will be moments when it is easier to fall back into old habits, to make excuses, to avoid responsibility. But every time you choose accountability, you strengthen it. It becomes part of who you are. It becomes your default response. And over time, it transforms your life. At its core, accountability is about power. Not power over others, but power over yourself, your choices, your actions, your mindset. When you own those things, you unlock your potential. You stop limiting yourself with excuses and start pushing yourself with purpose. You realize that you are capable of more than you thought, and that realization changes everything. Ownership also creates momentum. Small actions add up. Small decisions compound. When you consistently take responsibility and act on it, you build progress. And progress builds confidence. That confidence fuels more action, and the cycle continues. Before you know it, you are moving in a completely different direction than where you started. It also teaches patience. When you take ownership, you understand that results take time. You stop looking for shortcuts and start focusing on the process. You trust that your efforts will pay off if you stay consistent. That patience keeps you from giving up too early. It keeps you committed even when progress feels slow. Ownership is ultimately about becoming the person you need to be to achieve your goals. It's not just about what you do. It is about who you become in the process. It shapes your mindset, your habits, your character. It turns you into someone who is reliable, disciplined, and focused. And that version of you is capable of achieving things that the old version could not. When you truly understand accountability as ownership, you realize that it is not a burden. It is an opportunity. An opportunity to take control, to grow, to improve, and to create the life you want. It is not easy, but it is worth it. Because at the end of the day, the quality of your life is a reflection of the level of ownership you are willing to take. Excuses are one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop, not because they seem harmful on the surface, but because they quietly destroy potential over time. They don't come in loud, obvious ways. They come disguised as reasonable explanations, as temporary delays, as justifications that make you feel better in the moment. But every excuse you accept creates a small distance between you and the person you could become. Over time, those small distances turn into a gap so wide that your potential becomes something you only talk about instead of something you live. An excuse is essentially a story you tell yourself to avoid responsibility. It protects your ego by shifting the focus away from what you didn't do and placing it somewhere else. Maybe it's the environment. Maybe it's other people. Maybe it's bad timing. Maybe it's lack of resources. And while some of those factors can be real, the problem is not their existence. The problem is allowing them to define your actions. The moment you accept an excuse as a reason to stop, delay, or lower your standards, you give it power over your life. Excuses are comfortable. That's why they are so addictive. They remove pressure. They let you off the hook. They make it okay to not try as hard, to not push yourself, to not face discomfort. But comfort is the enemy of growth. Growth requires effort, discipline, and sometimes struggle. When you rely on excuses, you avoid those things. When you avoid those things, you also avoid progress. Stay in the same place, repeating the same patterns, wondering why nothing changes. One of the most damaging effects of excuses is that they limit your belief in yourself. Every time you make an excuse, you send a message to your mind that you are not capable of overcoming challenges. You reinforce the idea that something outside of you is in control. Over time, this weakens your confidence. You start to doubt your ability to handle difficulties. You become hesitant to take risks. You begin to settle for less than what you are capable of because you no longer trust yourself to do more. Excuses also create a habit of avoidance. Instead of facing problems head on, you look for ways around them. Instead of solving challenges, you delay them. This might work in the short term, but in the long term, it leads to bigger problems. The things you avoid do not disappear. They grow. They become more complicated, more overwhelming, more difficult to handle. And because you have built a habit of avoiding responsibility, dealing with those problems becomes even harder. Another way excuses destroy potential is by stealing your time. Every excuse that leads to procrastination costs you hours, days, sometimes even years. Time is one of the most valuable resources you have. And once it's gone, you cannot get it back. When you keep saying, I'll start tomorrow, you are not just delaying action. You are losing opportunities. Opportunities to learn, to grow, to improve, to move closer to your goals. Those lost opportunities add up, and eventually they become regret. Excuses also affect your discipline. Discipline is built through consistent action, especially when you don't feel like it. But excuses give you a way out. They make it acceptable to skip the work, to break your routine, to ignore your commitments. And the more you do this, the weaker your discipline becomes. And without discipline, it becomes almost impossible to achieve anything significant. Talent, intelligence, and ambition mean very little without the discipline to follow through. There is also a psychological cause to making excuses. Deep down, you know when you are not giving your best effort. You know when you are capable of more. And even if you try to ignore it, that awareness stays with you. Creates a sense of dissatisfaction, a feeling that you are not living up to your potential. Over time, this can lead to frustration, guilt, and even a loss of self-respect. You start to feel stuck, not because you lack ability, but because you have allowed excuses to hold you back. Excuses also shape your identity. The more you rely on them, the more they become part of who you are. You become someone who always has a reason, someone always has an explanation, someone who never fully takes responsibility. And once that identity is established, it becomes harder to change. You start to see yourself as a victim of circumstances rather than a creator of outcome. That mindset limits what you believe is possible for your life. Another important aspect is how excuses affect your resilience. Life will always present challenges. There will always be obstacles, setbacks, and unexpected difficulties. Resilience is the ability to keep going despite those challenges, but excuses weaken resilience. They give you an easy way out when things get tough. Instead of pushing through, you step back. Instead of adapting, you quit. Over time, this reduces your ability to handle adversity, making even small challenges feel overwhelming. Excuses also impact your relationships. When you consistently make excuses, it affects how others see you. People begin to notice a lack of reliability. They start to question your commitment. Trust is built on consistency and follow through, and excuses undermine both. This can limit your opportunities, both personally and professionally. People are more likely to invest in, support, and collaborate with those who take responsibility and deliver on their promises. It is important to understand that excuses often feel justified. You might truly believe that your situation is different, that your challenges are unique, that your reasons are valid. And sometimes they are. Life is not always fair, and not everyone starts from the same place. But the key difference lies in how you respond. Two people can face the same challenge, and one will use it as an excuse while the other uses it as motivation. The situation is the same, but the outcome is different because of the mindset. Breaking the habit of making excuses requires awareness. You have to catch yourself in the moment. You have to recognize when you are about to justify inaction. This is not always easy because excuses can be subtle. They can sound logical. They can feel reasonable. But if you look closely, you will notice a pattern. Excuses often appear when something is uncomfortable, difficult, or requires effort. They are a signal that you are being challenged. And instead of stepping up, you are stepping back. Replacing excuses with action is a process. It does not happen overnight. It requires consistent effort and a willingness to be uncomfortable. It means doing the work even when you don't feel like it. It means holding yourself accountable even when no one else is watching. It means choosing progress over comfort again and again. Each time you do this, you weaken the habit of making excuses and strengthen the habit of taking action. Another powerful step is changing the way you talk to yourself. Instead of saying, "I can't because," start asking, "How can I?" This shift in language changes your focus. It moves you from limitation to possibility. It encourages problem solving instead of avoiding. It opens your mind to solutions that you might not have considered before. Language shapes thought, and thought shapes action. It is also important to accept that you will not always feel ready. Waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, or the perfect mindset is another form of excuse. The truth is, you will rarely feel completely prepared. Growth happens when you act despite that uncertainty. When you stop waiting to start doing, you gain experience. And that experience builds confidence. Confidence does not come before action. It comes from action. Surrounding yourself with the right people can also help. Being around individuals who take responsibility and push themselves can influence your behavior. It sets a higher standard. It makes excuses harder to justify. On the other hand, if you are surrounded by people who constantly make excuses, it becomes easier to adopt the same mindset. Environment plays a role, and choosing the right environment can support your growth. Ultimately, excuses destroy potential because they keep you from becoming who you are capable of being. They limit your actions, weaken your discipline, reduce your confidence, and prevent you from taking full control of your life. The more you rely on them, the further you move away from your goals. But the moment you start rejecting excuses and embracing responsibility, everything begins to change. You start to see progress. You start to build momentum. You start to realize that your potential was never the problem. The excuses were. Discipline is often misunderstood because people tend to associate success with bursts of motivation. They wait to feel inspired, energized, or ready before they take action. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes depending on your mood, your environment, your energy levels, and even the smallest external factors. Some days you wake up feeling driven and unstoppable, and other days you don't feel like doing anything at all. If your progress depends on motivation, then your progress will always be inconsistent. That inconsistency is what keeps most people from reaching their full potential. Discipline operates on a completely different level. It does not depend on how you feel. It is a decision, a commitment meant to act regardless of your emotional state. When you are disciplined, you don't ask yourself whether you feel like doing something. You simply do it because it needs to be done. That shift from emotion-based action to principle-based action is what separates those who talk about goals from those who actually achieve them. Discipline removes the negotiation between what you want now and what you want most. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is that it creates consistency. Success is rarely the result of one big action. It is the result of many small actions repeated over time. Discipline ensures that those actions happen daily, even when they are boring, difficult, or uncomfortable. It builds routines and habits that move you forward step by step. Over time, those small steps compound into significant results. Without discipline, it is easy to start strong and then fade away. With discipline, you keep going long after the initial excitement has disappeared. Motivation often focuses on the outcome. It makes you think about the end result, the success, the recognition, the rewards. While that can be inspiring, it can also be misleading. When you only focus on the outcome, you may lose interest when progress is slow or when challenges arise. Discipline, on the other hand, focuses on the process. It keeps you grounded in the daily work required to achieve your goals. It teaches you to value effort, consistency, and improvement rather than just the final result. Another important difference is reliability. Motivation is unpredictable. You cannot control when it shows up or how long it stays. Discipline, however, is something you can rely on. It becomes a part of your identity. It is there on the days when motivation is absent. It is there when you are tired, stressed, or distracted. It ensures that your standards remain high, regardless of your circumstances. That reliability is what builds trust in yourself. You know that you will follow through, no matter what. Discipline also strengthens your mental toughness. Every time you choose to act despite not feeling like it, you build resilience. You prove to yourself that you are capable of pushing through discomfort. Over time, this makes challenges feel less intimidating. What once seemed difficult becomes manageable. What once required effort becomes routine. Discipline expands your capacity to handle pressure, and that capacity is essential for growth. There's also a sense of control that comes with discipline. When you rely on motivation, you are at the mercy of your emotions. Your productivity depends on how you feel in the moment. But when you are disciplined, you take control of your actions. You decide what gets done, regardless of how you feel. That control creates stability. It allows you to make progress even when life is unpredictable. It gives you a sense of direction and purpose. Discipline also reduces decision fatigue. When you have clear routines and habits, you do not have to constantly decide whether or not to take action. The decision has already been made. You simply follow through. This saves mental energy and makes it easier to stay consistent. Wow. Instead of wasting time debating with yourself, you focus on execution. That efficiency can make a significant difference in your productivity and progress. Another key aspect of discipline is delayed gratification. Motivation often seeks immediate rewards. It wants quick results, instant feedback, and immediate satisfaction. Discipline, however, is willing to wait. It understands meaningful achievements take time. It prioritizes long-term success over short-term comfort. This ability to delay gratification is one of the most important traits for achieving anything significant. It allows you to stay committed even when results are not immediately visible. Discipline also builds self-respect. Every time you follow through on your commitments, you reinforce your sense of integrity. You prove to yourself that your words matter, that your promises are not empty. This creates a positive cycle. The more you keep your commitments, the more you trust yourself. The more you trust yourself, the more confident you become. That confidence is not based on external validation. It is built from within. Motivation can be powerful, but it is often short-lived. It can get you started, but it cannot sustain you. Discipline is what keeps you going. It is what carries you through the difficult moments, the setbacks, and the slow period. It is what ensures that you do not give up when things get hard. Without discipline, motivation fades and progress stops. With discipline, progress continues regardless of how you feel. Discipline also helps you manage distraction. In a world full of constant interruptions, it is easy to lose focus. Motivation may help you concentrate for a short period, but it is discipline that keeps you on track over the long term. It helps you prioritize your time, eliminate unnecessary distractions, and stay focused on what truly matters. This level of focus is essential for achieving meaningful results. Another benefit of discipline is that it creates structure. It brings order to your day and your life. It ensures that your actions are aligned with your goals. Without structure, it is easy to drift, to waste time, and to lose direction. Discipline provides a framework that keeps you grounded and focused. It helps you make the most of your time and energy. Discipline also plays a crucial role in building habits. Now, habits are the foundation of success. They determine how you spend your time, how you approach your work, and how you respond to challenges. Discipline is what allows you to establish and maintain those habits. It ensures that you repeat the right actions consistently until they become automatic. Once a habit is formed, it requires less effort to maintain, making it easier to sustain progress. There's also a level of independence that comes with discipline. When you are disciplined, you do not need external motivation or validation to take action. You are self-driven. You rely on your own standards and commitments. This independence is empowering because it means you are not dependent on external factors to succeed. You are in control of your own progress. Discipline also helps you handle failure more effectively. When you are disciplined, you do not let setbacks derail you. You see them as part of the process. You learn from them and continue moving forward. Motivation may disappear after a failure, but discipline remains. It ensures that you keep going, even when things do not go as planned. Another important aspect is that discipline creates momentum. The more you act consistently, the easier it becomes to continue. Each action builds on the previous one, creating a sense of progress. That progress fuels further action, creating a positive cycle. Momentum is powerful because it makes it easier to maintain consistency. Once you have it, you do not want to lose it. Discipline also aligns your actions with your values. It ensures that you are living in accordance with what truly matters to you. It helps you stay true to your goals, even when you attempt to take shortcuts or choose the easier path. This alignment creates a sense of purpose and fulfillment. You are not just working hard, you are working in the right direction. It is also important to recognize that discipline is a skill that can be developed. It is not something you are born with. It is built through practice and repetition. Each time you choose to act despite not feeling like it, you strengthen your discipline. Over time, it becomes easier. What once required effort becomes a natural part of your routine. Discipline also requires clarity. You need to know what you are working toward and why it matters. Without clarity, it is difficult to stay committed. When you have a clear vision, discipline becomes easier because you understand the purpose behind your action. You are not just going through the motions. You are working towards something meaningful. Another key element is accountability. Discipline is easier to maintain when you hold yourself accountable for your action. This means tracking your progress, evaluating your performance, and making adjustments when necessary. It means being honest with yourself about what you are doing and what you need to improve. Accountability reinforces discipline and ensures that you stay on track. Ultimately, discipline is what turns potential into reality. It bridges the gap between where you want to be. It ensures that your actions are consistent, focused, and aligned with your goals. While motivation may spark the desire to change, it is discipline that sustains that change over time. It is the foundation of success, the driving force behind progress, and the key to achieving anything meaningful. Motivation feels powerful in the moment. It can light a fire inside you, push you to take action, and make you believe that anything is possible. You watch something inspiring, hear something emotional, or experience a surge of determination, and suddenly you're ready to change your life. But that feeling, as intense as it is, doesn't last. It fades. It always fades. And when it does, if that's the only thing you were relying on, everything you started begins to fall apart. That's why discipline matters more. Because discipline is not a feeling. It's a decision that remains even when the feeling disappears. The problem with motivation is that it is tied to emotion. And emotions are unstable. They shift depending on your sleep, your stress, your environment, your mood, even the people around you. One day you feel unstoppable, and the next day you feel drained, distracted, or unmotivated. If your productivity depends on that emotional state, then your output will always be inconsistent. You might have a few great days, maybe even a great week, but eventually there will be a drop. And when that drop comes, most people stop. Not because they lack ability, but because they lack discipline. Discipline removes that dependency on emotion. It creates a system where action happens regardless of how you feel. It tells you that whether you're tired or energized, whether you're inspired or not, the work still needs to be done. And more importantly, it gets done. That consistency is what builds real progress. It's not about having one perfect day of effort. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when it feels like nothing is changing. There is a big difference between starting something and sustaining it. Motivation is great for starting. It gives you that initial push, that excitement, that sense of possibility. But discipline is what sustains you. It's what keeps you going when the excitement wears off and the reality of the work sets in. Because the truth is, most worthwhile goals involve a lot of repetitive, unglamorous effort. There are no shortcuts, no constant excitement, no endless inspiration, just work. And discipline is what allows you to keep doing that work over and over again. Another important aspect is that discipline builds structure. When you rely on motivation, your actions are random. You do things when you feel like it, and avoid them when you don't. There's no consistency, no rhythm, no system. But discipline creates routines. It establishes patterns. It turns important actions into non-negotiable parts of your day. You don't wake up and decide whether or not you work toward your goals. You've already decided. You just follow through. That structure removes uncertainty and makes progress more predictable. Discipline also strengthens your identity. Every time you follow through on something you said you would do, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable, that you are committed, that you are someone who takes action. Over time, this becomes part of who you are. You're not just someone who wants success. You're someone who works for it consistently. That identity shift is powerful because it changes your default behavior. You no longer rely on bursts of motivation because you become the kind of person who acts regardless of how you feel. Motivation often focuses on the reward. It makes you think about the outcome, the success, the end result. And while that can be inspiring, it can also create frustration. Because the reality is, results take time. You might not see immediate progress. You might not get instant feedback. And when the results don't come as quickly as expected, motivation starts to fade. Discipline, on the other hand, focuses on the process. It teaches you to value the daily effort, the small improvements, the consistency. It shifts your attention from what you want to achieve to what you need to do. There's also a level of resilience that comes with discipline. When you rely on motivation, setbacks can hit you hard. If you're already low on motivation and something goes wrong, it becomes even harder to continue. But when you're disciplined, setbacks don't stop you. They become part of the process. You expect challenges and you're prepared to deal with them. You don't need to feel good to keep going. You just keep going because that's what you do. Discipline also helps you manage discomfort. A lot of the things that lead to growth are uncomfortable. Waking up early, working hard, pushing your limits, staying focused when distractions are everywhere. None of these things are easy. Motivation might help you do them once or twice, but discipline is what helps you do them consistently. It trains you to accept discomfort as part of the journey instead of something to avoid. And once you become comfortable with discomfort, you gain an advantage that most people don't have. Another key difference is reliability. Motivation is unreliable. You cannot count on it to be there when you need it. Discipline is reliable. It's something you build and strengthen over time. It becomes a part of your routine, your habits, your mindset. You don't wait for discipline to show up. You create it through your actions. And once it's established, it becomes a foundation you can depend on. Discipline also reduces internal conflict. When you rely on motivation, there is always a debate happening in your mind. Should I do this now or later? Do I feel like it? Or maybe I'll start tomorrow. That constant negotiation drains your energy. But when you're disciplined, that debate disappears. The decision has already been made. You don't waste time thinking about whether or not to act. You just act. That clarity makes it easier to stay focused and productive. Another important aspect is delayed gratification. Motivation often seeks immediate rewards. It wants quick results, fast progress, instant satisfaction. But most meaningful achievements require patience. They require you to invest time and effort without immediate returns. Discipline allows you to do that. It helps you stay committed even when the reward is far away. It trains you to prioritize long-term success over short-term comfort. Discipline also builds momentum. When you act consistently, you create a sense of progress. Even small actions, when repeated over time, add up. That progress builds confidence. It makes you feel like you're moving forward, like your efforts are paying off. And that feeling of progress makes it easier to keep going. Momentum is powerful because it reduces resistance. Once you're in motion, it's easier to stay in motion. There is also a connection between discipline and self-respect. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your trust in yourself. You start to doubt your ability to follow through. But every time you keep a promise, you strengthen that trust. You prove to yourself that you can rely on your own actions. That builds confidence, not the kind that comes from external validation, but the kind that comes from knowing you can do what you say you will do. Discipline also helps you navigate distractions. In a world full of constant interruptions, it's easy to lose focus. Motivation might help you concentrate for a short period, but it's not enough to sustain long-term focus. Discipline helps you prioritize. It helps you stay committed to what matters, even when there are easier or more enjoyable alternatives. It creates boundaries that protect your time and energy. Another important point is that discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. There will be days when you don't perform at your best, when things don't go as planned, but discipline ensures that you don't stop. You adjust, you learn, and you continue. It's about showing up even if the effort is not perfect, because showing up consistently is what leads to improvement. Discipline also empowers you to take control of your life. When you rely on motivation, you are reactive. You act based on how you feel, which means your actions are influenced by external factors. But when you're disciplined, you are proactive. You decide what needs to be done, and you do it, regardless of external circumstances. That sense of control is empowering. It makes you feel capable, responsible, and in charge of your own progress. It's also important to understand that discipline can be developed. It's not something you either have or don't have. It's something you build through practice. Every time you choose action over comfort, you strengthen it. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you reinforce it. Over time, it becomes easier. What once required effort becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, it becomes part of who you are. Motivation can inspire you, but it cannot sustain you. It can get you started, but it cannot carry you through the long journey. Discipline is what bridges that gap. It ensures that your actions are consistent, that your progress continues, that your goals remain within reach. It removes the dependency on how you feel and replaces it with a commitment to what matters. And that commitment is what ultimately leads to success. Consistency is one of the most underestimated forces in personal growth and success. People often look for dramatic changes, big breakthroughs, and overnight transformations. But real progress rarely happens that way. It is built slowly through repeated actions, through habits that are performed day after day, even when they seem small or insignificant. Consistency is not exciting, and that is exactly why so many people ignore it. But the truth is, consistency is what turns effort into results and discipline into freedom. At first glance, consistency may seem restrictive. Doing something every day, sticking to routines, following through on commitments, it can feel like you are limiting your freedom. It can feel like you are locking yourself into a structure that removes spontaneity. But in reality, the opposite is true. Consistency creates freedom because it builds control. When your actions are consistent, your results become predictable. When your results become predictable, your life becomes more stable. And that stability gives you the freedom to make choices from a position of strength rather than uncertainty. One of the most important aspects of consistency is that it builds momentum. When you take action repeatedly, even in small ways, you create a forward motion that becomes easier to maintain over time. The first step is always the hardest. The beginning requires effort, focus, and sometimes resistance. But once you start moving, each step becomes slightly easier than the last. Consistency keeps that momentum alive. It prevents you from constantly starting over, which is where most people lose progress. Inconsistency, on the other hand, is exhausting. Starting and stopping repeatedly drains your energy. Every time you stop, you lose momentum. Every time you try to start again, you have to overcome that initial resistance all over again. This cycle makes progress feel harder than it actually is. It creates frustration and discouragement because it feels like you are working hard but not getting anywhere. Consistency breaks that cycle. It allows your efforts to build on each other instead of being reset over and over again. Consistency also strengthens your habits. Habits are the foundation of your daily life. They determine how you spend your time, how you approach your work, and how you respond to challenges. But habits are not formed overnight. They require repetition. The more consistent you are, the stronger your habits become. Eventually, the actions that once required effort become automatic. And when positive behaviors become automatic, you no longer have to rely on willpower or motivation to maintain them. Another powerful effect of consistency is that it reduces uncertainty. When you act inconsistently, your results are unpredictable. Some days you make progress, other days you don't. This unpredictability makes it difficult to measure improvement and stay motivated. But when you are consistent, you create a clear pattern. You can track your progress. You can see what is working and what needs to change. This clarity makes it easier to stay focused and make better decisions. Consistency also builds trust, both with yourself and with others. When you consistently follow through on your commitments, you prove that you are reliable. You show that your actions match your words. This builds confidence in yourself, credibility with others. People are more likely to support, respect, and trust someone who is consistent. And perhaps more importantly, you begin to trust yourself. You know that when you say you will do something, you will do it. There is also a connection between consistency and discipline. Discipline is what helps you take action when you don't feel like it. But consistency is what ensures that those actions are repeated over time. The two work together. Discipline gets you started each day, and consistency keeps you going. Without consistency, discipline becomes occasional. Without discipline, consistency becomes difficult. But when both are present, they create a powerful system for growth. Consistency also teaches patience. In a world that often focuses on quick results and instant gratification, consistency requires you to think long term. It forces you to accept that meaningful change takes time. You may not see immediate results, and that can be discouraging. But consistency teaches you to trust the process. It reminds you that small actions, when repeated over time, lead to significant outcomes. It shifts your focus from immediate results to long-term progress. Another important aspect is that consistency simplifies decision-making. When you have established routines and habits, you don't have to constantly decide what to do next. The decision has already been made. You follow your routine. This reduces mental fatigue and makes it easier to stay on track. Instead of wasting energy on choices, you direct that energy toward execution. Consistency also helps you manage setbacks. Life is unpredictable, and there will always be challenges. There will be days when things don't go as planned, when you feel tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. But consistency creates a foundation that helps you recover quickly. Missing one day does not derail your progress if you are consistent overall. It becomes easier to get back on track because your habits are already established. Another key benefit of consistency is that it builds resilience. When you show up every day, regardless of how you feel, you develop a stronger mindset. You learn to push through discomfort. You learn to stay focused even when things are difficult. Over time, this resilience becomes a part of who you are. Challenges no longer feel like obstacles. They feel like part of the journey. Consistency also aligns your actions with your goals. It ensures that you are not just thinking about what you want, but actively working toward it. It bridges the gap between intention and execution. Many people have goals, but not everyone takes consistent action toward them. Consistency is what turns goals into reality. It transforms ideas into results. There is also a sense of progress that comes with consistency. Even if the progress is slow, it is steady. And that steady progress builds confidence, shows you that your efforts are making a difference. It reinforces the belief that you are moving in the right direction. This confidence makes it easier to stay committed and continue pushing forward. Consistency also reduces stress. When you have a structured approach to your work and your goals, you eliminate a lot of uncertainty. You know what needs to be done, and you have a plan to do it. This reduces anxiety and helps you stay focused. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by everything at once, you focus on one step at a time. Another important aspect is that consistency creates discipline over time. At first, it may feel like you are forcing yourself to act, but as you repeat those actions, they become easier, they become part of your routine. What once required effort becomes natural. This transition from effort to habit is what makes consistency so powerful. It turns difficult actions into automatic behaviors. Consistency also helps you avoid extremes. Instead of working intensely for a short period and then burning out, you maintain a steady pace. This prevents exhaustion and makes it easier to sustain your efforts over the long term. It creates balance. It allows you to make progress without overwhelming yourself. There's also a connection between consistency and identity. When you consistently take action, you begin to see yourself differently. You start to identify as someone who is disciplined, reliable, and committed. This identity reinforces your behavior. It makes it easier to continue because it aligns with who you believe you are. Consistency also enhances your ability to learn and improve. When you take repeated action, you gain experience. You learn what works and what doesn't. You make adjustments. You refine your approach. This continuous improvement leads to better results over time. Without consistency, it is difficult to gain enough experience to improve. Another powerful effect of consistency is that it compounds. Small actions, when repeated over time, lead to exponential growth. What seems insignificant in the beginning becomes significant over time. This compounding effect is what makes consistency so valuable. It turns small efforts into big results. Consistency also gives you a sense of control over your life. When you are consistent, you are actively shaping your future. You are not leaving your progress to chance. You are taking responsibility for your actions and their outcomes. This sense of control is empowering. It gives you confidence and clarity. Ultimately, consistency creates freedom because it removes chaos. It replaces uncertainty with structure, hesitation with action, and inconsistency with progress. It allows you to build a life that is stable, predictable, and aligned with your goals. It gives you the ability to rely on yourself, to trust your process, and to move forward with confidence. Your habits define your future in ways that are often invisible in the present, but undeniable over time. Every action you repeat, Every routine you follow, every behavior you normalize is quietly shaping the direction of your life. Most people focus on big decisions, major turning points, or once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But what truly determines your future is not what you do occasionally. It is what you do consistently. Habits are the repeated patterns that compound over time. And whether they are good or bad, they are always working in the background, either building you up or slowly holding you back. The reason habits are so powerful is because they operate automatically. Once a behavior becomes a habit, it no longer requires constant thought, effort, or decision-making. It becomes part of your daily rhythm. This can be incredibly beneficial when your habits are aligned with your goals, but it can be equally destructive when they are not. The danger is that many people are unaware of their habits. They go through their days on autopilot, repeating behaviors without questioning whether those behaviors are helping or harming their future. Every habit you have started as a choice. At some point, you decided to take a specific action. Maybe it was small, maybe it seemed insignificant, but over time, repetition turned that action into a habit. Now it feels natural, almost unavoidable. This is how habits gain their power. They remove the need for constant decision-making, which makes life easier, but it also means that if your habits are not intentional, they can lead you in a direction you never consciously chose. Habits shape your identity. The more you repeat a behavior, the more it becomes part of who you are. If you consistently wake up early, stay disciplined, and work toward your goals, you begin to see yourself as a focused and driven person. If you consistently procrastinate, avoid challenges, and give in to distractions, you begin to see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline. This identity then reinforces your habits, creating a cycle. You act in a certain way, that behaviors shape your identity, and that identity makes it easier to continue acting in the same way. One of the most important aspects of habits is that they compound. A single action may not seem significant, but repeated over time, it creates a noticeable impact. Reading a few pages every day may not feel like much, but over a year, it can lead to a significant increase in knowledge. Exercising regularly may not produce immediate results, but over months and years, it transforms your health. On the other hand, small negative habits, like wasting time, neglecting responsibilities, or making poor choices, can also compound, leading to long-term consequences. The challenge with habits is that their effects are delayed. You do not always see the results immediately, which makes it easy to underestimate their importance. Positive habits may feel difficult in the beginning because the rewards are not instant. Negative habits may feel harmless because the consequences are not immediate. But over time, those effects become clear. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is often the result of the habits you have built. Habits also determine how you respond to challenges. When faced with difficulty, you fall back on your habits. If you have built habits of discipline, resilience, and focus, you are more likely to push through obstacles and find solutions. If your habits involve avoidance, procrastination, or giving up easily, you are more likely to struggle. This is why habits are so important. They prepare you for situations before those situations even occur. Another key aspect is that habits reduce the need for willpower. Willpower is limited. You cannot rely on it for every decision you make throughout the day. Habits, however, operate without requiring constant effort. Once a positive behavior becomes a habit, it requires less energy to maintain. This allows you to focus your energy on other important tasks. Instead of constantly battling yourself to make the right choices, those choices become automatic. Habits also influence how you spend your time. Time is one of your most valuable resources, and your habits determine how you use it. If your habits involve productive activities, learning, and growth, your time is invested in your future. If your habits involve distractions, procrastination, and unproductive behavior, your time is wasted. Over time, the way you spend your time shapes your results. Changing your habits requires awareness. You have to recognize what you are doing on a daily basis and evaluate whether those actions are aligned with your goals. This is not always easy because habits can be deeply ingrained. They can feel natural and comfortable, even when they are not beneficial. But once you become aware of them, you gain the ability to change them. Replacing bad habits with good ones is a gradual process. It requires patience and consistency. You cannot expect immediate transformation. You have to make small changes and repeat them over time. Each small improvement builds on the previous one, creating a positive cycle. The key is to focus on progress rather than perfection. Even small steps in the right direction can lead to significant change over time. Environment also plays a crucial role in shaping habits. Your surroundings influence your behavior more than you may realize. If you are in an environment that supports positive habits, it becomes easier to maintain them. If your environment encourages negative behavior, it becomes more challenging to change. This is why it is important to design your environment in a way that supports your goals. Remove distractions, create systems, and surround yourself with influences that encourage growth. Habits also create structure in your life. They provide a framework that guides your actions. Without habits, life can feel chaotic and unpredictable. You may find yourself constantly deciding what to do next, which can lead to indecision and wasted time. Habits simplify this process. They create routines that allow you to focus on execution rather than decision making. Another important point is that habits are not just about productivity. They are also about mindset. The way you think, the way you respond to situations, and the way you view yourself can all become habitual. If you consistently think negatively or doubt yourself, that becomes your default mindset. If you train yourself to think positively, focus on solutions, and believe in your ability to grow, that also becomes your default. Your mental habits are just as important as your physical ones. Consistency is key when it comes to habits. It is not about making a change once or twice. It is about repeating it until it becomes automatic. This requires discipline and commitment. There will be days when you do not feel like sticking to your habits, but those are the days that matter the most. Every time you follow through, you strengthen the habit. Every time you break it, you weaken it. Habits also influence your long-term goals. Big goals can feel overwhelming because they require a significant amount of effort and time. But when you break those goals down into daily habits, they become more manageable. Instead of focusing on the end result, you focus on the actions required to get there. This makes the process less intimidating and more achievable. Another powerful aspect of habits is that they create a sense of control. When you have strong, positive habits, you are not relying on motivation or external factors to succeed. You have a system in place that guides your action. This gives you confidence because you know that your progress is not random. It is the result of your consistent effort. Habits also shape your future opportunity. The skills you develop, the knowledge you gain, and the experiences you accumulate all come from your habits. Over time, these factors influence the opportunities that become available to you. Good habits open doors, while bad habits close them. It's also important to understand that habits are not fixed. They can be changed. No matter how long you have been following a certain pattern, you have the ability to create a new one. It may take time and effort, but it's possible. The key is to start small, stay consistent, and remain patient. Ultimately, your future is not determined by a single decision or a single moment. It is shaped by the small actions you take every day. Your habits are the building blocks of your life. They determine your progress, your growth, and your outcomes. Whether you realize it or not, they are always working, always shaping your path. The question is whether they are working for you or against you. Blame is one of the easiest reactions in the world. And that is exactly why it is so dangerous, so dangerous. It requires no effort, no reflection, and no change. When something goes wrong, pointing out what feels natural. It protects your ego. It gives you an immediate sense of relief because it shifts responsibility away from you. But while blame may feel good in the moment, it quietly keeps you stuck. It locks you into a mindset where your progress depends on other people, on circumstances, on things you cannot control. And when your progress depends on things you cannot control, you lose your power. Building, on the other hand, is the opposite mindset. It is not about what went wrong or who is responsible. It is about what can be created next. It is about action, ownership, and forward movement. When you choose to build instead of blame, you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, well, what can I do now? That shift may seem small, but it changes everything. It moves you from a position of helplessness to a position of control. Blame keeps your focus on the past. It traps you in a cycle of analyzing what went wrong without taking steps to move forward. You replay situations in your mind. You revisit conversations. You think about what others should have done differently. But no matter how much you think about it, the past does not change. All that energy is wasted if it does not lead to action. Building redirects that energy. It acknowledges the past, but refuses to stay there. It focuses on the present and the future, where change is actually possible. Another problem with blame is that it creates a victim mindset. When you constantly blame external factors, you start to see yourself as someone who is at the mercy of circumstances. You begin to believe that your life is shaped by things outside of your control. This belief limits your actions. It makes you less likely to take initiative, less likely to try, less likely to push yourself. Why would you if you think the outcome is already determined by something else? Building breaks that mindset. It reinforces the idea that you have influence, that your actions matter, that you can create change regardless of your starting point. Building also requires accountability. It forces you to look at your own role in every situation. This does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means being honest about what you can control. Even in situations where you are not at fault, you still have control over your response. You can choose how you react, how you adapt, and what you do next. That is where your power lies. The more you focus on what you can control, the less you are affected by what you cannot. Blame is passive. It keeps you in a state of waiting for someone else to fix the problem, waiting for circumstances to change, waiting for things to improve. Building is active. It pushes you to take initiative. It encourages you to create solutions, to take steps, to move forward. This difference between passive and active is what determines progress. Waiting rarely leads to change. Action always does. Another important aspect is that blame limits growth. When you blame others, you miss the opportunity to learn. You overlook the lessons that could help you improve. You ignore the patterns that may be holding you back. Building, on the other hand, is rooted in growth. It looks for lessons in every situation. It asks, what can I learn from this? And how can I do better next time? This mindset turns every experience, even negative ones, into an opportunity for improvement. Blame also damages relationships. When you constantly point fingers, it creates tension and conflict. It puts others on the defensive. It makes it difficult to communicate effectively. Building fosters collaboration. It focuses on solutions rather than problems. It encourages open communication and mutual understanding. People are more willing to work with someone who is focused on moving forward rather than assigning fault. Building requires effort. It is not always easy. It involves taking responsibility, making changes, and sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone. But that effort is what leads to progress. Blame may feel easier, but it leads to stagnation. Building may be harder, but it leads to growth. The choice between the two determines the direction of your life. Another key difference is that blame keeps you reactive, while building makes you proactive. When you are reactive, you respond to situations after they happen. You are always catching up, always dealing with problems as they arise. When you are proactive, you anticipate challenges, you prepare for them, and you take steps to prevent them. Building encourages this proactive mindset. It helps you stay ahead rather than constantly trying to recover. Building also strengthens your confidence. Every time you take action, solve a problem, or create something, you prove to yourself that you are capable. This builds self-belief. It reinforces the idea that you can handle challenges and make progress. Blame does the opposite. It weakens your confidence by suggesting that you are not in control. It makes you feel dependent on external factors, which reduces your sense of capability. Another important point is that building creates momentum. Each action leads to another. Each solution opens the door to new opportunities. Over time, this momentum builds, making it easier to continue moving forward. Blame interrupts this momentum. It creates pauses, delays, and stagnation. It keeps you stuck in the same place while others move ahead. Building also encourages creativity. When you focus on solutions, you start thinking differently. You look for new approaches, new ideas, new ways to improve. This creativity is essential for growth. It allows you to adapt, to innovate, and to overcome challenges. Blame limits creativity because it focuses on problems rather than possibilities. Another aspect of building is resilience. When you take responsibility and focus on action, you become more capable of handling setbacks. You develop the ability to bounce back, to adjust, and to keep going. Blame weakens resilience. It makes setbacks feel final, as if they are out of your control. Building reminds you that setbacks are temporary and that you have the ability to move forward. Building also aligns your actions with your goals. It ensures that you are not just reacting to situations, but actively working towards something meaningful. It keeps you focused on what matters. Blame distracts you from your goals. It pulls your attention away from progress and places it on problems that may not even be relevant to your future. Another important point is that building requires consistency. It is not a one-time action. It is a mindset that you apply every day. It is choosing action over excuses, solutions over complaints, progress over perfection. This consistency is what leads to long-term results. Blame, on the other hand, is often inconsistent. It appears in moments of frustration and disappears when things are going well. It does not create a stable foundation for growth. Building also changes your perspective. Instead of seeing obstacles as barriers, you begin to see them as challenges to overcome. You start to view difficulties as opportunities to learn and improve. This shift in perspective makes a significant difference in how you approach life. It makes you more adaptable, more resilient, and more focused on growth. Another powerful aspect of building is that it gives you a sense of purpose. When you are actively creating, improving, and moving forward, you feel a sense of direction. You know that your actions are leading somewhere. This sense of purpose keeps you motivated and engaged. Blame, on the other hand, often leads to frustration and dissatisfaction because it does not lead to meaningful progress. Building also encourages responsibility. It reinforces the idea that your actions matter and that you have a role in shaping your future. This sense of responsibility is empowering. It gives you control over your life. It allows you to make decisions that align with your goals and values. Ultimately, the choice between blaming and building is a choice between staying stuck and moving forward. Blame may be easier, but it keeps you in the same place. Building requires effort, but it leads to growth, progress, and success. Every situation you face presents you with this choice. And the more consistently you choose to build, the more control you gain over your life and your future. Pain is one of the most misunderstood parts of growth. Most people try to avoid it, escape it, or ignore it, believing that a comfortable life is the goal. But the reality is that pain is not something you can avoid if you want to grow. It shows up in effort, in discipline, in sacrifice, in failure, and in change. The real question is not whether you will experience pain, it's which type of pain you are willing to live with. Because if you avoid the pain of growth, you will inevitably face the pain of regret. The pain of growth is temporary. It comes in moments when you push yourself beyond what is comfortable. It is there when you wake up early instead of sleeping in, when you work while others relax, when you choose discipline over distraction. It is the discomfort of learning something new, the frustration of not being good at something yet, the pressure of stepping outside your comfort zone. This kind of pain can feel intense in the moment, but it does not last forever. It fades as you adapt, as you improve, and as what once felt difficult becomes easier. Regret, on the other hand, is a different kind of pain. It does not come from what you did, it comes from what you did not do. It is the feeling of looking back and realizing that you had the chance to try, to grow, to take action, but you chose comfort instead. It is the weight of missed opportunities, the questions that never get answered, the potential that was never explored. And unlike the pain of growth, regret does not fade easily. It lingers. It stays with you sometimes for years, sometimes for a lifetime. One of the reasons people choose comfort over growth is because the pain of effort is immediate, while the pain of regret is delayed. When you have the option to work hard or take it easy, the easier option feels better in the moment. There is no immediate consequence for choosing comfort. But over time, those choices add up. Days turn into months, months turn into years, and eventually the consequences appear. By then, the opportunity may no longer be there. The time has passed, and what remains is regret. The pain of growth is also purposeful. It has direction. Every challenge you face, every difficulty you overcome, every moment of discomfort contributes to your development. It builds strength, resilience, discipline, and confidence. It shapes you into someone who is capable of handling greater challenge. It moves you forward. Even when it feels difficult, there is a sense that it is leading somewhere. Regret has no such purpose. It does not build you. It does not move you forward. It keeps you stuck in the past, replaying what could have been. It often comes with self-doubt, frustration, and a sense of loss. It can affect your confidence and your willingness to take risks in the future. It becomes a reminder of what happens when you choose comfort over action. Another important aspect is that the pain of growth strengthens your mindset. Every time you push through discomfort, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you thought. You expand your limits. You build mental toughness. What once felt difficult becomes manageable. Over time, this changes how you approach challenges. You no longer fear them. You face them with confidence. Regret, on the other hand, weakens your mindset. It creates doubt. It makes you question your decisions. It can lead to a cycle of hesitation, where you become afraid to take action because you are worried about making the wrong choice. This hesitation can prevent you from moving forward, creating even more regret over time. The pain of growth also builds momentum. Each time you take action, you move closer to your goals. You create progress, even if it is small. That progress builds confidence and motivation, making it easier to continue. It creates a positive cycle where effort leads to results, and results encourage more effort. Regret interrupts that cycle. It keeps you focused on what you did not do instead of what you can do now. It can make you feel stuck, as if the opportunity has passed and there's no way forward. But the truth is, as long as you are still moving, there is always a chance to change direction. The challenge is overcoming the weight of regret and choosing to act despite it. Another difference is that the pain of growth is something you choose, while regret is something you experience as a consequence. When you choose growth, you are in control. You decide to take on the challenge, to face the discomfort, to push yourself. That choice gives you power. It gives you ownership of your life. Regret, however, often feels like something that happens to you. It is the result of past inaction. It can feel heavy because it represents lost control, missed chances, and decisions that cannot be undone. That is why it is so important to act in the present. The choices you make today determine whether you will experience the pain of growth or the pain of regret in the future. The pain of growth also aligns with your goals. It's connected to something meaningful. You endure discomfort because you know it is leading you towards something you want. That sense of purpose makes the pain more bearable. It gives it meaning. It turns it into something valuable rather than something to avoid. Regret lacks that connection. It's not tied to progress or purpose. It is simply a reminder of what could have been. It often comes with a sense of wishing things were different, but without the ability to change the past. That's what makes it so difficult to deal with. Another important point is that the pain of growth is temporary because you adapt. The more you face challenges, the more you get used to them. What once felt uncomfortable becomes normal. Your capacity increases. You become stronger, more capable, more resilient. Over time, the same level of effort feels easier because you have grown. Regret does not adapt in the same way. It does not become easier with time. In some cases, it becomes more intense as you realize the long-term impact of your choices. It can resurface in moments of reflection, reminding you of opportunity that are no longer available. The pain of growth also teaches you valuable lessons. Every challenge you face provides insight. You learn what works, what doesn't, and how to improve. These lessons become tools that you can use in the future. They help you make better decisions and navigate challenges more effectively. Regret can also teach lessons, but they often come at a higher cost. The lesson is learned after the opportunity is gone. While it can help you make better choices in the future, it does not change the past. That is why it is better to learn through action rather than through inaction. Another key difference is that the pain of growth leads to pride. When you look back at the effort you put in, the challenges you overcame, and the progress you made. You feel a sense of accomplishment. You know that you earned your results. That pride builds confidence and reinforces your belief in yourself. It creates a sense of disappointment. You know that you could have done more, that you had the potential to achieve something greater. That realization can be difficult to accept, especially when you know that the opportunity is gone. The pain of growth also opens doors. It creates opportunities. It leads to new experiences, new skills, and new possibility. It expands your world. The more you push yourself, the more options you create for your future. Regret closes doors. It represents opportunities that were not taken, paths that were not explored. It limits your options because it is tied to the past. While you can still create new opportunity, you cannot go back and change what was missed. Another important aspect is that the pain of growth builds discipline. It requires you to act even when you don't feel like it. It strengthens your ability to stay committed. Over time, this discipline becomes a habit, making it easier to continue growing. Regret often comes from a lack of discipline. It is the result of choosing comfort, delaying action, or avoiding challenge. It highlights the importance of discipline by showing what happens when it is absent. The choice between these two types of pain is something you face every day. In small decisions and big ones, you are constantly choosing between comfort and growth. The easy option may feel better in the moment, but it often leads to regret. The harder option may feel uncomfortable now, but it leads to progress and fulfillment. Understanding this difference can change how you approach your decisions. Instead of asking what feels good right now, you start asking what will matter later. You begin to prioritize long-term growth over short-term comfort. You recognize that the discomfort you feel today is an investment in your future. Over time, this mindset becomes a habit. You start to choose growth more consistently. You become more comfortable with discomfort. You build resilience, discipline, and confidence. And as you continue on that path, the pain of growth becomes less intimidating, while the idea of regret becomes something you are determined to avoid. In the end, both types of pain are real. Both have an impact on your life, but one leads to progress, strength, and fulfillment, while the other leads to missed opportunities and lingering disappointment. The difference lies in the choices you make today, the actions you take, and the willingness to embrace discomfort for the sake of something greater. Daily actions are the building blocks of your destiny, even though they often feel too small to matter in the moment. Most people underestimate the power of what they do every single day because the results are not immediate. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly see a massive transformation just because you worked hard the day before. Instead, change happens gradually, quietly, and almost invisibly. But over time, those small daily actions accumulate, and eventually, they shape the direction of your entire life. Every day presents a set of choices. Some of those choices seem insignificant, whether you wake up early or hit snooze, whether you focus or get distracted, whether you follow through or delay. In isolation, these decisions may not appear to have a major impact, but when they are repeated consistently, they create patterns. And those patterns become habits. Over time, those habits define your behavior, your mindset, and ultimately your results. Destiny is often thought of as something distant or predetermined, something that happens in the future beyond your control. But in reality, your destiny is being shaped in the present moment. It is not a single event or a single decision. It is a result of countless small actions taken over time. The things you do today, no matter how small they seem, are contributing to the person you are becoming and the life you are creating. One of the reasons their actions are so powerful is because they compound. Just like interest in a bank account, small efforts can grow into something much larger when they are applied consistently. Reading a few pages every day may not feel significant, but over months and years, it can lead to a deep understanding of a subject. Practicing a skill for a short period each day may not show immediate results, but over time, it leads to mastery. On the other hand, small negative actions can also compound, leading to outcomes that you never intended. The challenge is that the effects of daily actions are often delayed. When you make a positive choice, you may not see the reward right away. When you make a negative choice, you may not feel the consequences immediately. This delay can make it difficult to stay consistent because it feels like your actions are not making a difference. But the truth is, they are. The impact is just building beneath the surface, waiting to reveal itself over time. Daily actions also shape your mindset. The way you approach your day, the way you respond to challenges, and the way you think about your goals are all influenced by what you do consistently. If you start your day with intention and focus, it sets the tone for everything that follows. If you begin your day with distraction and procrastination, that pattern often continues. Over time, these patterns become your default way of operating. Another important aspect is that daily actions create momentum. When you take consistent action, you build a sense of progress. Even small wins can create a feeling of movement, which makes it easier to continue. Momentum reduces resistance. It makes it easier to show up, to stay focused, and to keep pushing forward. Without momentum, every action feels like starting from zero. With momentum, each action builds on a lag. Daily actions also determine how you use your time. Time is one of your most valuable resources. How you spend it shapes your future. If your daily actions are aligned with your goals, your time becomes an investment in your future. If your actions are driven by distraction or avoidance, your time is lost. Over time, the difference between investing your time and wasting it becomes significant. Consistency in daily actions also builds discipline. Discipline is not something that appears overnight. It is developed through repeated effort. Each time you choose to act, even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your discipline. Over time, this makes it easier to stay committed. What once required effort becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, it becomes part of who you are. Daily actions also influence your confidence. Every time you follow through on something you said you would do, you build trust in yourself. You prove that you are reliable, that you can commit and execute. This builds self-belief. On the other hand, when you repeatedly fail to follow through, it weakens your confidence. It creates doubt and hesitation. Confidence is not just about what you think. It is about what you consistently do. Another key point is that daily actions help you manage challenges. Life would always present obstacles, but how you respond to them is shaped by your habits. If you are used to taking action, solving problems, and staying consistent, you are more likely to handle challenges effectively. If your daily actions involve avoidance or procrastination, challenges can feel overwhelming. The habits you build prepare you for the situations you will face. Daily actions also create clarity. When you take consistent steps toward your goals, you gain a better understanding of what works and what doesn't. You learn through experience. This allows you to adjust your approach and improve over time. Without action, it is difficult to gain this clarity. Thinking and planning are important, but they are not enough. Action is what turns ideas into results. Another important aspect is that daily actions align your intentions with your results. Many people have goals and dreams, but not everyone takes the steps required to achieve them. There's often a gap between what people want and what they do. Daily actions bridge that gap. They turn intentions into reality. They ensure that you are not just thinking about your goals, but actively working toward them. Daily actions also reduce overwhelm. Big goals can feel intimidating because they seem far away and difficult to achieve. But when you break those goals down into daily steps, they become more manageable. Instead of focusing on the entire journey, you focus on what you can do today. This makes it easier to stay consistent and avoid feeling overwhelmed. Another powerful effect of daily actions is that they create a sense of control. When you take consistent action, you are actively shaping your future. You are not waiting for things to happen. You are making them happen. This sense of control is empowering. It gives you confidence and motivation to keep going. Daily actions also influence your environment. The choices you make can change your surroundings, your routines, and even the people you interact with. Over time, these changes can create an environment that supports your goals. This makes it easier to maintain positive habits and continue progressing. It's also important to recognize that daily actions are not about perfection. You will not have perfect days every day. There will be moments when you fall short, when things don't go as planned. What matters is not perfection, but consistency. One imperfect day does not define your progress. What matters is that you keep going, that you continue taking action, and that you stay committed. Daily actions also build resilience. When you show up consistently, even when it is difficult, you develop a stronger mindset. You become more capable of handling discomfort and challenges. This resilience helps you stay on track, even when things get tough. Another key point is that daily actions create long-term results. The things you do today may not seem significant, but over time, they add up. They create a foundation for your future. The skills you develop, the habits you build, and the experiences you gain all come from your daily actions. Daily actions also influence your opportunities. The more you act, the more you expose yourself to new possibilities. You create chances for growth, for learning, and for success. Opportunities often come as a result of consistent effort. They are not random. They are earned through action. It is also important to understand that your daily actions reflect your priorities. What you choose to do each day shows what matters to you. If your actions are aligned with your goals, it means you are prioritizing your future. If they are not, it may be a sign that something needs to change. Daily actions also create accountability. When you take responsibility for what you do each day, you take ownership of your progress. You become more aware of your choices and their impact. This awareness helps you make better decisions and stay focused on your goals. Another powerful aspect is that daily actions shape your identity. The more you repeat a behavior, the more it becomes part of who you are. If you consistently act with discipline, focus, and determination, you begin to see yourself as someone who embodies those qualities. This identity reinforces your behavior, making it easier to continue. Ultimately, your destiny is not something that happens by chance. It is something that is built through your daily actions. Every choice you make, every step you take contributes to the direction of your life. The small things you do today are shaping the bigger picture of your future. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly creating your destiny through the actions you take every single day. Fear is one of the most powerful forces that holds people back, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood. Most people think fear is something to avoid, something that signals danger and should be escaped. While fear can be protective in certain situations, the fear that stops you from growing, from pursuing your dreams, and from taking risks is a different kind of fear entirely. This fear is not a sign of danger. It is a sign that you are standing on the edge of your potential. It is a signal that the next step you need to take is uncomfortable, challenging, and transformative. The people who succeed are not those who feel no fear. They are those who learn to act despite it. Fear shows up in many forms. Sometimes it is the fear of failure, the anxiety that if you try and do not succeed, people will judge you or your efforts will be wasted. Sometimes it is the fear of rejection, the concern that others will not accept your ideas, your abilities, or your presence. Sometimes it is the fear of the unknown, the uncertainty of stepping into a new role, a new opportunity, or a new life. These fears are natural, but they are not permanent barriers. They are signals. They indicate the areas where growth is required, where your courage must be activated. One of the most important truths about fear is that it is temporary, but regret is permanent. The fear you feel before taking a step toward your goals is intense in the moment, but it fades once action is taken. Regret, on the other hand, lingers. It is the result of inaction, of refusing to face your fears, and therefore missing opportunities that could have changed your life. The pain of regret is far more lasting than the temporary discomfort of fear. When you understand it, fear becomes a guide, not a jailer. Fear is also closely tied to self-doubt. Many people feel fear because they question their abilities. They wonder if they are good enough, strong enough, or capable enough to handle the challenges ahead. This self-doubt amplifies fear, making it feel larger than it really is. But the reality is that ability is often developed in the act of doing, not before it. You do not need to feel completely ready before taking a step. Courage grows as you move forward. Each small action taken, in spite of fear, strengthens your confidence, your skills, and your resilience. Fear also teaches you about your values and priorities. When you feel afraid, it often means that what is on the other side matters to you. If you were indifferent, there would be no fear. Fear signals that something is significant enough for you to care deeply about it. This is why facing fear is so important. It aligns you with what truly matters in your life. The discomfort is a marker of importance. And leaning into it allows you to grow in areas that are meaningful. Another important aspect of fear is that it's rarely as big as it seems. When you analyze fear, it often shrinks in size. The mind exaggerates risks, magnifies potential failure, and dramatizes the consequences of action. This is why action is so crucial. The moment you take a step despite fear, you begin to see reality clearly. You realize that the worst case scenario is rarely as catastrophic as your imagination made it out to be. You also realize that your capacity to handle challenges is much greater than you gave yourself credit for. Fear also acts as a barrier to consistency. Many people start projects, pursue goals, or take steps toward their dreams, but when fear arises, they stop. The fear becomes an excuse to procrastinate, delay, or abandon the effort altogether. But consistency is what produces results. Facing fear consistently, showing up day after day, even when fear is present, is what separates those who achieve their goals from those who remain stagnant. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the ability to act despite it. Fear also impacts relationships and communication. People often avoid difficult conversations, confrontations, or opportunities to express themselves because they are afraid of rejection, judgment, or conflict. Avoiding these moments may feel safer, but it prevents growth and diminishes potential. When you face these fears, you develop the ability to express yourself honestly, set boundaries, and advocate for your needs. This strengthens your relationships and increases your confidence in social and professional situations. Another important effect of fear is that it can limit your creativity and problem-solving ability. Fear narrows your focus. It makes you risk-averse, sticking to what feels safe rather than exploring new possibilities. When you face fear, you expand your mental horizons. You allow yourself to experiment, innovate, and take calculated risks. Growth and breakthrough ideas often live on the other side of fear because they require stepping beyond what is comfortable and familiar. Fear also teaches resilience. Each time you act despite fear, you prove to yourself that you are capable of handling discomfort, uncertainty, and challenge. This builds mental toughness, the ability to persevere through obstacles, and the capacity to keep moving even when conditions are difficult. Resilience is not built in comfort. It is forged in the fire of fear and adversity. A crucial aspect of fear is understanding the difference between rational and irrational fear. Rational fear alerts you to real danger, such as physical harm or significant risk. Irrational fear is the fear that exists mainly in your mind. The fear of what others will think, the fear of failing publicly, the fear of uncertainty. Learning to distinguish between these two types of fear allows you to take action where it is safe and strategic while avoiding unnecessary risk. Most of the fear that holds people back is irrational and can be overcome with mindset, preparation, and action. Fear also has a way of shaping identity. When you allow fear to dictate your choices, you begin to see yourself as someone limited, hesitant, or incapable. Each avoidance reinforces that identity. On the other hand, when you confront fear consistently, you begin to see yourself as courageous, capable, and resilient. Your actions reinforce a positive identity, which in turn makes it easier to continue acting despite fear. Another critical point is that fear is amplified by isolation. When you face fear alone, it can feel overwhelming and unmanageable. Sharing your goals, challenges, and fears with supportive people reduces their intensity. Mentors, friends, and communities can provide encouragement, guidance, and perspective. While fear is a personal experience, it does not have to be faced entirely in solitude. Fear also influences decision-making. When you are afraid, you are more likely to avoid taking risks, delay action, or settle for mediocrity. This can have long-term consequences because the opportunities you avoid may have been pivotal for your growth. Recognizing fear and learning to act despite it is a skill that improves with practice. The more often you choose courage, the less controlling fear becomes over time. Another important concept is that fear thrives on uncertainty. The more you speculate, imagine, and obsess over what might happen, the stronger fear becomes. Action reduces fear because it replaces speculation with experience. Each step you take creates clarity. You learn, adjust, and gain confidence, which diminishes the power of fear over your mind. Fear also teaches discipline and preparation. Often the presence of fear highlights areas where you need to prepare, practice, or improve. It encourages you to develop the skills, strategies, and mindset necessary to handle challenges. By facing fear, you not only grow in courage, but also in competence. One of the most significant truths about fear is that it's universal. Every successful person, every high achiever, every person who has accomplished something meaningful has experienced fear. What differentiates them is not the absence of fear, but their response to it. They do not wait until fear disappears. They act in spite of it. This is the common denominator of all success. Fear also teaches humility. It reminds you that growth is challenging and that mastery is a process. Each time you confront fear, you acknowledge your limitations and expand them. You learn that courage is not the absence of weakness, but the willingness to act even with weakness. This humility keeps you grounded while motivating continuous improvement. Another effect of fear is that it encourages intentionality. When you are aware of fear, you are forced to examine what matters to you. You ask yourself whether avoiding discomfort is worth more than pursuing growth. This self-reflection strengthens your sense of purpose, clarifies your goals, and directs your energy toward meaningful action. Ultimately, fear is not the enemy. The enemy is inaction. Fear signals opportunity, is a compass pointing toward areas where you must grow. It tests your resolve, challenges your limits, and measures your courage. By acting despite fear, you expand your potential, develop resilience, and build confidence. Those who achieve greatness are not fearless. They are willing to embrace fear as part of the process, using it to propel them forward rather than holding them back. In life, fear is inevitable, but how you respond to it is what defines you. Each time you step into fear, each time you take action despite the uncertainty and discomfort, you reclaim control over your future. You demonstrate to yourself that you are stronger than the anxiety in your mind, that your potential is greater than the limits imposed by hesitation, and that courage is not a feeling, it is a choice. Every decision you make in the face of fear is an investment in the life you are capable of creating. And over time, those decisions shape not just your achievements, but the very identity of who you are. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and reality, yet it's one of the most overlooked and underestimated qualities in the pursuit of success. People often focus on motivation, talent, or luck, thinking that these are the primary drivers of achievement. While those elements play a role, discipline is what separates those who start from those who finish. Motivation comes and goes. It is unreliable, fluctuating with mood, circumstances, and energy. Discipline, on the other hand, is consistent. It does not wait for inspiration. It does not depend on feelings. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you do not feel like doing it, and is the foundation of all meaningful progress. Discipline begins with self-awareness. You must know your goals, your priorities, and the behaviors required to reach them. Without clarity, discipline lacks direction. It is not simply about resisting temptation or pushing through discomfort. It is about committing to a system of actions that move you consistently toward your objectives. This requires understanding what is truly important and what is merely a distraction. Every day presents countless opportunities to stray from your path, and discipline is what keeps you aligned with your purpose despite the noise, the chaos, and the ease of giving in to comfort. One of the most important aspects of discipline is consistency. Discipline is not measured by isolated moments of effort. It is measured by repeated, deliberate action over time. One day of working hard, one early morning, one instance of focus will not transform your life. It is the cumulative effect of consistent effort that produces results. Every action, no matter how small, compounds when repeated consistently. This is why habits are so critical. They are the physical manifestation of discipline. The person who cultivates disciplined habits builds momentum that carries them forward, even on days when motivation is absent. Discipline is also intimately tied to delayed gratification. Many people want success, but they want it instantly. They desire results without the sacrifice, the repetition, or the struggle that true achievement requires. Discipline teaches you to endure discomfort today for rewards tomorrow. It trains the mind to value long-term success over short-term pleasure. This ability to delay gratification is what allows you to invest time, energy, and resources into actions that yield meaningful outcomes rather than seeking immediate but fleeting satisfaction. Another critical aspect of discipline is self-control. Self-control is the ability to regulate your impulses, resist distractions, and make choices aligned with your goals. It is the internal power that prevents you from giving in to instant gratification or indulgence. Without self-control, discipline cannot exist because every day presents temptations to abandon focus. The more you practice self-control, the stronger your discipline becomes. It is like a muscle. The more you train it, the more resilient it becomes in the face of challenges. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Everyone encounters setbacks, failures, and moments of weakness. Discipline is what allows you to recover from these moments without losing momentum. It is the ability to recommit after falling short, to keep moving even when progress is slower than desired, and to recognize that consistency over time outweighs temporary lapses. Those who master discipline understand that failure is not the end. It's a signal to adjust, learn, and continue. Another important truth is that discipline removes the need to rely on motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It is influenced by external circumstances, emotions, and temporary excitement. Discipline, however, is internal and consistent. When you rely solely on motivation, your progress is inconsistent and unpredictable. When you rely on discipline, your actions become automatic, guided by systems and routines that do not depend on fluctuating feelings. This is why elite performers, high achievers, and successful people emphasize structure and habits over waiting to feel motivated. Discipline also shapes character. It is not only a tool for achieving external goals, it also defines who you become. Each time you choose to act despite discomfort, to stay focused despite distractions, or to follow through despite fatigue, you are reinforcing a mindset of responsibility, resilience, and accountability. Discipline molds your identity. Over time, the repeated practice of discipline transforms your behavior into the default way you operate. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who honors commitments, someone who is capable of consistent effort. Another key aspect of discipline is that it builds trust in yourself. When you consistently do what you say you will do, you develop self-confidence. You know that you are capable of honoring commitments, meeting challenges, and executing plans. This self-trust becomes a foundation for tackling larger goals, taking risks, and facing uncertainty. Without discipline, confidence wavers because your actions are inconsistent and your ability to follow through becomes questionable even to yourself. Discipline is also the antidote to procrastination. Procrastination is often a symptom of a lack of discipline. It is the inability to start or maintain focus on tasks that are necessary but uncomfortable. Discipline teaches you to prioritize action over delay. It instills a bias toward doing rather than waiting, toward progress rather than avoidance. Each time you act instead of postponing, you strengthen your ability to overcome resistance and move closer to your objectives. Another significant dimension of discipline is its role in managing energy and focus. Discipline requires not just effort, but intelligent effort. It involves knowing when to act, how to act, and what to prioritize. It requires structuring your environment to minimize distractions, optimizing your habits to maximize productivity, and making deliberate choices about where to invest time and attention. This strategic aspect of discipline ensures that your efforts are not only consistent, but also effective. Discipline is also crucial for long-term success because it allows you to persist when challenges arise. Every meaningful goal involves obstacles, setbacks, and difficulties. Discipline is what enables you to maintain effort when progress slows, when outcomes are uncertain, or when the journey feels arduous. It's the internal fortitude that allows you to continue working toward a vision, even when external circumstances are not favorable. Another important truth is that discipline often precedes inspiration, not the other way around. Waiting till it feels like it before taking action is a trap that delays growth. Action generates momentum, and momentum fosters inspiration. The act of showing up, doing the work, and following the system creates clarity, confidence, and motivation. Discipline is what initiates this process, starts the cycle of progress that eventually fuels itself. Discipline also strengthens resilience. Life will inevitably present obstacles, criticism, and setbacks. Discipline equips you with the mental toughness to handle these challenges without losing focus or giving up. It helps you stay grounded in your objectives and maintain forward movement even under pressure. Those who cultivate discipline are less likely to be derailed by external circumstances because they have internal systems guiding their actions. Another dimension of discipline is that it empowers decision-making. When you are disciplined, you are less likely to make impulsive or reactive choices. You have a framework that guides your behavior, allowing you to act thoughtfully and strategically. This reduces mistakes, enhances efficiency, and ensures that your actions are aligned with your long-term goals rather than temporary impulses or emotions. Discipline also fosters accountability. When you commit to a disciplined approach, you take responsibility for your actions, your results, and your growth. You no longer blame circumstances, luck, or other people for your outcomes. Instead, you recognize that your success is the result of your consistent effort, and your failures are opportunities to adjust and improve. Accountability strengthens both character and performance, creating a cycle of self-reliance and growth. Another important aspect is that discipline shapes habits that compound over time. Each act of focus, each completed task, each resisted temptation adds up. These small wins accumulate, producing exponential results. The person who exercises discipline daily develops a momentum that carries them toward larger achievements. Conversely, the absence of discipline allows chaos, distraction, and inconsistency to dominate, undermining potential growth. Discipline also teaches patience. Success is rarely instantaneous. The most meaningful achievements require time, effort, and sustained focus. Discipline allows you to endure the process, to persist when results are not immediately visible, and to trust that consistent action produces cumulative rewards. It replaces the need for immediate gratification with a mindset oriented toward long-term gain. Ultimately, discipline is the engine of progress. It is the consistent force that transforms goals into accomplishments, dreams into reality, and potential into performance. It is the ability to take action despite discomfort, fatigue, or fear, and to do so repeatedly until the desired outcome is achieved. Discipline is not about avoiding difficulty. It is about using structure, self-control, and perseverance to navigate difficulty successfully. It is the difference between starting and finishing, between wishing and achieving, between intention and reality. In life, discipline touches every area: physical, mental, emotional, and professional. It is what allows you to maintain health, develop skills, nurture relationships, manage finances, and pursue ambition. The cumulative effect of disciplined action is transformation. Every choice you make to honor your commitments, every moment you resist distraction, and every step you take, despite resistance, compounds over time, shaping the trajectory of your life. Mastery, success, and fulfillment are not accidents. They are the inevitable outcomes of a disciplined approach sustained day after day, year after year. Consistency is one of the most overlooked yet critical factors in achieving success, and it is far more powerful than most people realize. People often look for shortcuts, quick wins, or moments of inspiration, thinking that these are what lead to results. But the reality is that results are rarely about single, dramatic actions. They are the outcome of repeated effort over time. Consistency is what transforms small, incremental actions into lasting progress. It is the engine that drives momentum, the invisible force behind mastery, and the key differentiator between those who start and those who finish. Consistency is not about doing something perfectly every time. It is about doing something regularly, persistently, and with focus. And with focus, it is about showing up even when more motivation wanes, even when circumstances are challenging, and even when progress seems invisible. Most people underestimate the power of these repeated small actions because the results are delayed. You might not see the impact of one day of focus or effort, but over weeks, months, and years, the accumulation of consistent action produces extraordinary outcomes. One of the most important aspects of consistency is creates momentum. Momentum is a powerful force that compounds over time. When you consistently take action, even small steps, you begin to build a rhythm. Each step makes the next one easier. Each completed task creates confidence, reinforces habits, and strengthens commitment. Over time, this momentum propels you forward, making challenges easier to overcome and progress more predictable. In contrast, inconsistency disrupts momentum, making it difficult to maintain focus and ultimately slowing your progress. Consistency also strengthens discipline. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you reinforce your ability to stay on track. You prove to yourself that you are capable of persistence, and that reinforcement builds character. Discipline without consistency is merely potential. Consistency transforms that potential into results. For example, you may have the discipline to wake up early or work hard, but without showing up every day, that discipline cannot compound into meaningful outcomes. It is a repeated effort that ingrains habits, reinforces values, and creates lasting change. Another critical aspect of consistency is trust, both in yourself and from others. When you consistently deliver on your promises, you build credibility. People begin to rely on you, respect your reliability, and see you as someone who follows through. This is particularly important in professional settings, relationships, and leadership roles. Your consistency communicates integrity, competence, and commitment. In contrast, inconsistency erodes trust, creates doubt, and makes it difficult for others to invest in you or your vision. Consistency also provides clarity. When you engage in repeated actions, you begin to see patterns. You understand what works and what doesn't, which strategies are effective, and which habits produce results. This clarity allows you to make better decisions, optimize your approach, and refine your methods. Without consistency, it is difficult to evaluate cause and effect because sporadic effort produces unpredictable results. The power of consistency lies in its ability to generate reliable feedback, enabling continuous improvement. One of the most overlooked benefits of consistency is that it builds resilience. Life is unpredictable and obstacles will inevitably arise. When you have cultivated consistent habits and routines, you are better equipped to handle disruptions without losing your trajectory. Consistency teaches you to persevere, to maintain focus under pressure, and to adapt without abandoning your goals. It provides a framework that allows you to navigate challenges while remaining committed to long-term objectives. Consistency is also essential for mastering any skill. Mastery is not achieved overnight. It is the product of countless hours of deliberate practice. A musician does not become virtuoso in a single session. An athlete does not become elite in a single game. And a professional does not excel without years of steady effort. Each repetition, each practice session, each moment of focus contributes to improvement. Consistency turns incremental effort into expertise, and without it, even the most talented individuals fail to reach their potential. Another important dimension of consistency is that it builds confidence. Every time you follow through, you reinforce your belief in your ability to act reliably. Confidence is not built in isolation. It is earned through repeated experience. The more consistent you are, the more you trust yourself, the more you rely on your capacity to meet challenges, and the more likely you are to take on bigger goals. Inconsistent effort, by contrast, undermines confidence because it creates uncertainty in your own abilities. Consistency is also closely tied to long-term vision. Many people focus on short-term results because they are easier to measure, but long-term success is rarely achieved without consistent effort. The small daily choices you make determine whether you advance toward your vision or drift away from it. Each decision to show up, to work, to practice, and to persist is an investment in your future. Even when the immediate outcome is invisible, the accumulation of consistent action shapes your trajectory over time. Another crucial element is that consistency reduces wasted effort. Without a steady approach, you may work hard in bursts, but the impact is diluted by gaps, delays, and erratic focus. Consistency ensures that your energy is channeled efficiently, that progress compounds, and that each action contributes to the overall objective. The results of consistent effort are cumulative, creating exponential growth, whereas sporadic effort produces minimal, scattered outcomes. Consistency also reinforces accountability. When you commit to consistent action, you hold yourself responsible for showing up and performing. This internal accountability is powerful because it reduces excuses, minimizes procrastination, and ensures that your results are the product of deliberate effort rather than chance. By practicing consistency, you develop a mindset of responsibility that extends to all areas of life. Another key benefit of consistency is that it shapes identity. Your repeated actions define who you are. If you consistently show up, work hard, and persevere, you begin to see yourself as someone who embodies those traits. This identity then reinforces your behavior, creating a positive feedback loop. Conversely, inconsistent behavior reinforces self-doubt, unreliability, and a lack of commitment. Over time, the identity you cultivate through consistency becomes your default mode of operation, influencing your decisions, habits, and outcomes. Consistency also mitigates the effects of external circumstances. Life is unpredictable, and challenges, setbacks, and distractions are inevitable. When your foundation is built on consistent effort, you are less vulnerable to these fluctuations. Consistency provides stability in an unstable environment, allowing you to maintain progress despite obstacles. It ensures that external events do not dictate your trajectory. Your actions do. Consistency fosters momentum in ways that motivation cannot. Motivation is fleeting, influenced by mood, circumstance, and emotion. It can inspire a burst of effort, but it rarely sustains long-term achievement. Consistency, however, does not rely on mood or inspiration. It relies on commitment, habit, and repeated effort. Even when motivation fades, consistent action carries you forward, building progress and reinforcing momentum that becomes self-sustaining. Another vital aspect is that consistency promotes learning. Repeated exposure to tasks, challenges, and experiences allows you to refine your approach, gain insight, and improve performance. Learning is not instantaneous. It emerges from experience over time. Consistent effort ensures that you have sufficient exposure to develop competence, adapt strategies, and acquire the knowledge necessary for success. Inconsistent effort, by contrast, interrupts this process and limits growth. Consistency also reinforces focus. When you commit to repeated action, you prioritize what matters and filter out distractions. This repeated prioritization sharpens your ability to concentrate, reduces wasted effort, and aligns your actions with your goals. It teaches your mind to operate with purpose and intentionality, making it easier to achieve results even under challenging conditions. Another key benefit is that consistency amplifies results through compounding. Small, repeated actions accumulate over time, producing outcomes that far exceed what isolated efforts could achieve. This principle of compounding is seen in every field, from finance to health to skill development. The power of consistency lies in its ability to leverage time and repetition, turning incremental effort into extraordinary results. Consistency also shapes relationships. In personal and professional contexts, people respond positively to those who are reliable and dependable. Consistently showing up, following through, and delivering on commitments strengthens trust, credibility, and influence. In contrast, inconsistency erodes confidence, damages reputation, and reduces opportunities for collaboration and support. Another crucial point is that consistency reduces decision fatigue. When you establish routines and habits through repeated action, you automate behavior. This frees mental energy for high-level thinking, creativity, and strategic planning. Instead of constantly deliberating about whether to act, consistent habits make the right choice the default choice. This efficiency amplifies productivity and ensures that your efforts are focused on what matters most. Consistency also teaches patience. The results of repeated effort are rarely immediate. Progress is often incremental and imperceptible in the short term. By committing to consistent action, you cultivate the patience required to endure the process, trust the journey, and remain focused on long-term objectives. Impatience often leads to abandonment, but consistency reinforces the value of persistence and delayed gratification. Ultimately, consistency is the invisible force behind every meaningful achievement. It transforms effort into progress, actions into results, and intentions into reality. It is not about perfection, dramatic breakthroughs, or sudden inspiration. It's about showing up day after day, taking deliberate action, and maintaining focus on your goals. Over time, the cumulative effect of consistent effort shapes your skills, your habits, your identity, and your destiny. Success is not a singular event. It's the result of countless moments of consistent action compounded over time, produce extraordinary outcomes. In the end, consistency is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. It is the silent power behind mastery, the foundation of momentum, and the mechanism through which potential becomes reality. Every choice to show up, every small action taken repeatedly, and every commitment honor contributes to the trajectory of your life. The person who understands and embraces the power of consistency leverages it not just to accomplish goals, but to transform themselves, their opportunities, and ultimately their destiny. Success is never accidental. And one of the most crucial factors that determines whether someone achieves their goals is personal responsibility. Taking full ownership of your actions, decisions, and outcomes is the foundation of true achievement. Without it, progress is inconsistent, goals remain unmet, and potential is wasted. Personal responsibility is the recognition that your life is the product of your choices. It is the understanding that circumstances may influence you, but they do not define you. The power to shape your future lies in how you respond, act, and take ownership of every situation you face. When you embrace personal responsibility, you stop blaming external factors for your failures. Many people fall into the trap of blaming others, the economy, lack of resources, or circumstances for their shortcomings. While external factors do exist, they are rarely the root cause of sustained failure. It is not the obstacles themselves, but how you respond to them that determines your results. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that you have the ability to influence outcomes, even in difficult conditions. You focus on solutions rather than excuses, and this mindset is what separates those who succeed from those who stagnate. Personal responsibility also requires honesty with yourself. It demands self-reflection and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about your behavior, decisions, and patterns. Many people avoid this because it's easier to make excuses or externalize blame. However, growth comes from confronting reality head on. Being honest about your strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement allows you to make deliberate changes and take meaningful action. Avoiding responsibility keeps you stagnant, while embracing it creates a foundation for transformation. Another critical aspect of personal responsibility is accountability. Being accountable to yourself and others creates a framework for consistent action. Accountability is more than just acknowledging mistakes. It's about committing to follow through and owning both successes and failures. When you take full responsibility for your life, you no longer rely on motivation, luck, or external validation. You create systems, routines, and habits that ensure progress, and you measure your results objectively. This accountability empowers you to correct mistakes, learn from failures, and continually improve. Taking responsibility also cultivates resilience. Life is filled with challenges, setbacks, and unexpected events. Personal responsibility is the recognition that your response to these challenges determines their impact. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you react. By owning your actions and choices, you develop the mental toughness to adapt, persevere, and maintain forward momentum despite adversity. Resilience grows naturally when responsibility is embraced because you are no longer waiting for external circumstances to change. You act to change your path. Another key element of personal responsibility is the empowerment it brings. When you stop blaming others and take ownership of your life, you reclaim control. Instead of waiting for someone else to create opportunities or solve problems, you take initiative. This empowerment shifts your mindset from one of victimhood to one of agency. You begin to see possibilities instead of obstacles, solutions instead of complaints, and progress instead of frustration. Taking responsibility is inherently liberating because it puts you in the driver's seat of your own destiny. Personal responsibility also influences relationships and leadership. People are drawn to those who own their decisions and demonstrate integrity. In leadership, taking responsibility builds trust, respect, and credibility. Leaders who blame others or avoid accountability undermine confidence and cohesion, while those who accept ownership inspire commitment and loyalty. In personal relationships, responsibility fosters reliability, honesty, and mutual respect. By being accountable for your actions, you strengthen connections and demonstrate the maturity required for meaningful partnerships. Another dimension is that personal responsibility encourages continuous learning. When you own your mistakes, you create opportunities for growth. Failure becomes a teacher, not a source of shame. By analyzing your choices and outcomes, you identify what works, what doesn't, and how to improve. This mindset transforms challenges into stepping stones rather than obstacles. Those who avoid responsibility miss these critical lessons, repeating patterns of failure and limiting their potential. Personal responsibility also builds confidence. Each time you take ownership of a decision and its outcome, you reinforce your belief in your ability to shape your life. Confidence is strengthened, not by avoiding mistakes, but by learning from them and seeing the tangible results of your actions. When you take responsibility, you demonstrate to yourself that you are capable of navigating challenges, making decisions, and achieving goals. This self-assurance becomes a foundation for pursuing increasingly ambitious objectives. Another critical aspect is that personal responsibility creates discipline. Owning your actions requires consistency, focus, and commitment. You cannot defer responsibility to external factors. You must act, follow through, and manage your priorities effectively. Discipline becomes a natural extension of responsibility because the two are intertwined. The more you hold yourself accountable, the more you develop the habits necessary to achieve sustained success. Taking responsibility also fosters problem-solving skills. When you accept ownership of a situation, your focus shifts from assigning blame to identifying solutions. You ask, what can I do to improve this? Instead of who caused it? This proactive mindset enhances creativity, critical thinking, and the ability to navigate complex challenges. People who avoid responsibility often remain stuck in analysis, complaint, or inaction. Whereas those who embrace it move forward with purpose and clarity. Personal responsibility also emphasizes the power of choice. Every day you are faced with decisions that shape your life, from the smallest habits to major life moves. Responsibility is the recognition that you have the authority to choose, and that your choices have consequences. This perspective transforms life from a series of random events into a series of deliberate actions. By consciously choosing your responses, behaviors, and attitudes, you actively craft the life you desire. Another significant dimension of personal responsibility is resilience in adversity. Life will always present unforeseen circumstances, failures, and setbacks. Taking responsibility does not mean that life will be easy. It means that you commit to responding in a way that maximizes learning and progress. Instead of feeling victimized by circumstances, you see them as challenges to overcome. This mindset turns obstacles into opportunities, adversity into growth, and pressure into progress. Personal responsibility also strengthens integrity. When you own your choices, you are more likely to act in alignment with your values and principles. Integrity and responsibility are inseparable. Both require honesty, accountability, and consistency in thought and action. A person who takes responsibility cannot justify cutting corners, blaming others, or avoiding difficult tasks. Their actions reflect a commitment to truth, fairness, and excellence. Another critical element is that personal responsibility drives results. Talent, opportunity, and resources may provide a head start, but consistent ownership of actions is what ensures long-term achievement. Results are rarely accidental. They come of deliberate effort, learning from mistakes and continually adjusting your approach. Those who take responsibility proactively shape their outcomes, while those who avoid it are often at the mercy of chance, circumstance, or the actions of others. Personal responsibility also impacts emotional intelligence. When you own your actions, you learn to manage emotions, reactions, and impulses effectively. You stop projecting anger, frustration, or blame onto others, and you develop the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This emotional maturity enhances relationships, reduces conflict, and improves decision-making. Responsibility transforms emotional reactivity into intentional behavior. Another key aspect is that personal responsibility reinforces long-term thinking. Short-term excuses often feel easier, but they compromise progress toward meaningful goals. Taking responsibility requires evaluating actions in the context of long-term impact, making choices that may be difficult now but yield significant benefits in the future. It teaches patience, foresight, and strategic planning, ensuring that decisions contribute to enduring success rather than temporary relief. Personal responsibility also amplifies self-motivation. When you understand that your actions and results are your own, you rely less on external validation, encouragement, or motivation. You develop an internal drive because you know that your effort directly determines your outcomes. This self-reliance fosters independence, initiative, and a proactive approach to challenges, creating a sustainable engine for personal and professional growth. Another important dimension is that personal responsibility cultivates humility. Owning your mistakes, learning from feedback, and adjusting your approach requires acknowledging that you are not perfect and that growth is continuous. Humility allows you to accept criticism, seek guidance, and remain teachable. Those who avoid responsibility often become defensive or resistant, limiting their development. Responsibility, by contrast, creates an openness to learning and improvement. Personal responsibility also instills a sense of purpose. When you recognize that your actions matter, that your decisions shape your life, and that your effort determines your outcomes, every action gains significance. This perspective transforms mundane tasks into meaningful steps, setbacks into lessons, and challenges into opportunities for growth. Responsibility creates ownership of your journey and a deep sense of agency in crafting the life you want. Ultimately, personal responsibility is the cornerstone of freedom. Freedom is not simply the absence of constraints. It is the ability to direct your life according to your choices and principles. When you take ownership of your actions, you are no longer a passenger in your life. You are the driver. You are empowered to shape your circumstances, respond effectively to challenges, and create the results you desire. Those who refuse responsibility surrender this power, leaving their life in the hands of luck, circumstance, or other people. Taking responsibility requires courage because it is easier to blame, to complain, or to avoid difficult truths. Yet it is precisely this courage that separates the high achievers from the average. It demands that you face your failures, analyze your choices, and take deliberate action to improve. By doing so, you transform setbacks into learning experiences, obstacles into opportunities, and potential results. Responsibility is not a burden. It is the pathway to empowerment, growth, and lasting success. In life, personal responsibility is the difference between wishing and achieving, between stagnation and progress, and between excuses and results. Every choice you make, every action you take, and every outcome you experience is shaped by your willingness to own your role in your life. By embracing responsibility fully, you gain clarity, resilience, confidence, and freedom. You move from reacting to circumstances to proactively shaping your destiny. Those who understand and apply personal responsibility consistently are not at the mercy of life. They are the architects of it, building a future defined by intentional action, accountability, and unwavering ownership of their journey. Vision is the cornerstone of achievement. Without a clear picture of where you are going, it is impossible to move with purpose, make meaningful decisions, or persist through obstacles. Vision provides direction, clarity, and motivation. It is the blueprint for the life you want to create. Many people drift through life reacting to circumstances, opportunities, and setbacks because they lack a defined vision. They work hard but achieve little because effort without direction is scattered. A clear, compelling vision aligns your actions, priorities, and mindset, providing a framework for consistent progress. A strong vision begins with clarity about your goals and values. You must know not only what you want to achieve, but also why it matters. Purpose fuels vision, and vision fuels action. When your vision is rooted in deep personal meaning, it becomes more than a distant dream. It becomes a driving force that inspires daily effort. Without purpose, vision can feel abstract or unattainable. But when tied to your core values, It provides a constant source of motivation and resilience. People are drawn to clarity and purpose, and vision communicates both. Vision also serves as a measure of progress. When you have a defined destination, it is easier to track milestones, evaluate your performance, and adjust your approach. It allows you to celebrate achievements along the way and maintain motivation even when the end goal is distant. Without vision, progress is difficult to measure and effort can feel aimless, reducing both effectiveness and morale. Another important aspect of vision is that it builds persistence. Achieving meaningful goals often requires sustained effort over long periods. Vision gives you the reason to endure challenges, push through setbacks, and maintain focus. It transforms short-term discomfort into long-term investment, helping you maintain momentum when the journey becomes difficult or monotonous. Persistence fueled by vision is the key to turning potential into reality. Vision also enhances decision-making. When you have a clear understanding of your ultimate objective, every decision can be evaluated based on alignment with that goal. This clarity reduces indecision, limits distractions, and ensures that resources are allocated efficiently. Decisions become purposeful rather than reactive, increasing the likelihood of achieving your desired outcome. People without vision often make choices based on convenience, habit, or external pressure, which can derail progress. Another aspect of vision is its ability to create focus. Life offers countless opportunities, tasks, and distractions, and without vision, it is easy to scatter your energy across too many areas. Vision acts as a filter, allowing you to concentrate on what truly matters. This focus increases productivity, enhances learning, and accelerates progress. It enables you to dedicate your time, energy, and resources to activities that have the highest impact on achieving your goals. Vision also instills accountability. When you have a clear goal in mind, you are more likely to hold yourself responsible for your actions and outcomes. Accountability ensures that you follow through on commitments, monitor progress, and make adjustments when necessary. This sense of ownership strengthens discipline and fosters a proactive approach to challenges. Without vision, it is easy to blame circumstances or external factors for setbacks, but responsibility is natural when you know where you are headed. Another key aspect of vision is that it encourages continuous growth. When you see a future that excites you, you are naturally motivated to acquire the skills, knowledge, and experience necessary to reach it. Vision promotes lifelong learning, personal development, and skill mastery. People without vision may remain stagnant, lacking the drive to improve or pursue opportunities for growth. Vision creates a sense of purpose that fuels both effort and learning. Vision also shapes identity. The clearer your vision, the more you begin to see yourself as the type of person who can achieve it. Identity and vision reinforce each other. As you act in alignment with your vision, your self-perception evolves to match your goal. You begin to embody the habits, mindset, and behaviors necessary for success, creating a self-reinforcing cycle that drives achievement. Another important benefit of vision is that it provides perspective. Challenges, setbacks, and failures can feel overwhelming if you focus only on the immediate situation. Vision allows you to see the bigger picture, giving context to temporary difficulties. It reduces frustration, enhances problem solving, and encourages patience. When you understand that setbacks are part of the process, it is easier to maintain composure and stay committed. Vision also creates hope. When you have a compelling picture of the future, it inspires optimism, resilience, and determination. Even during difficult times, vision reminds you that your effort matters and that a better outcome is possible. Hope is a powerful motivator, and vision provides the foundation for sustaining it through challenges and setbacks. Ultimately, vision is the engine of achievement. It provides clarity, focus, motivation, and alignment. It shapes decisions, strengthens resilience, and inspires both yourself and others. Vision transforms potential into action, effort into results, and dreams into reality. Without vision, even talent, effort, and opportunity are scattered and ineffective. With vision, every action, choice, and habit is purposeful, contributing to the creation of the life you desire. Vision is not static. It evolves as you grow, learn, experience life. A powerful vision is ambitious yet flexible, clear yet adaptable, grounded in purpose but open to refinement. It requires both imagination and discipline. the ability to see what is possible, and the commitment to act consistently toward it. Those who cultivate a compelling vision do not drift through life. They chart a course, navigate challenges, and intentionally create the future they envision. In the end, vision is not just about seeing the destination. It is about guiding every step along the journey. It turns effort into direction, obstacles into lessons, and potential into achievement. Those who embrace a clear vision have a compass in the chaos, a framework for action, and a source of enduring motivation. Through vision, the impossible becomes attainable, challenges become opportunities, and every action gains purpose. It is the invisible force that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. And it is the key to living a life of intentional success and fulfillment. Persistence is one of the most powerful qualities a person can cultivate, and yet it is one of the most misunderstood. Many people believe that talent, luck, or intelligence alone determines success. But the truth is that persistence often outweighs natural ability. Talent without persistence wasted potential. Opportunity without persistence is fleeting. And intelligence without persistence is incomplete. Persistence is the act of continuing forward, despite obstacles, setbacks, failures, and resistance. It is the consistent commitment to your goals and the refusal to quit, no matter how difficult the journey becomes. It is what turns dreams into reality and ideas into accomplishments. Persistence begins with commitment. To persist, you must first define what you are willing to endure and sacrifice in order to achieve your objective. Commitment anchors your action, giving you the clarity to keep moving even when progress is slow or circumstances are challenging. Many people fail not because they lack ability, but because they never fully commit. They start, stumble, and give up when the path becomes uncomfortable. Persistence requires deciding that no matter what, you will continue forward, and that this choice will not be negotiable. One of the most important aspects of persistence is resilience. Life will inevitably present obstacles, failures, and disappointments. Persistence is the ability to recover from these setbacks and continue pursuing your goal. It is not about avoiding difficulties, but rather embracing them as part of the process. Each challenge encountered is an opportunity to grow stronger, to learn more, and to refine your approach. Those who persist understand that temporary failures do not define them. Their response to those failures does. Resilience fueled by persistence allows people to maintain progress when others give up. Persistence is also closely linked to patience. Significant achievements rarely happen overnight. Many of the most successful individuals endure years of effort, struggle, and repetition before reaching their goals. Patience allows you to endure the long process without becoming discouraged. It is the understanding that consistent effort repeated over time will produce results. Impatience often leads to abandoning worthwhile pursuits, while persistent patience ensures that effort compounds, creating extraordinary outcomes over the long term. Another critical aspect of persistence is adaptability. Persistence does not mean stubbornly pursuing a path that is clearly ineffective. It means maintaining commitment to your goal while being willing to adjust strategies and tactics as needed. Those who persist are flexible in their approach, but unwavering in their objective. They evaluate obstacles, learn from mistakes, and pivot when necessary. Persistence coupled with adaptability ensures that effort is not wasted and that you are continually moving closer to your desired outcome. Persistence also strengthens character. Every time you continue, despite difficulty, you reinforce qualities like determination, courage, and self-discipline. Character is developed through repeated trials, and a conscious choice to keep moving forward when quitting will be easier. This internal strength becomes a foundation for future challenges, creating a mindset that refuses to settle for mediocrity. People who persist consistently demonstrate reliability, responsibility, and integrity, qualities that attract opportunities and trust from others. Another key element of persistence is its ability to build confidence. Each small step forward, each problem overcome, and each setback endured reinforces the belief in your own capabilities. Confidence does not come solely from talent or luck. It is earned through repeated action and proof that you can handle challenges. As you persist, you develop trust in your ability to face adversity, make decisions under pressure, and achieve results. which in turn makes you more willing to pursue ambitious goals. Persistence is also essential for mastering any skill or craft. Expertise is rarely achieved in a short period. It requires long hours of practice, refinement, and repetition. Those who persist do not stop at initial failures or slow progress. They continue honing their skills until mastery is achieved. The repeated effort compounds over time, creating competence that cannot be rushed. Talent may give an initial advantage, but persistence ensures long-term growth, expertise, and achievement. Another significant aspect of persistence is that it transforms failures into learning experiences. Setbacks are inevitable, but persistent individuals view them not as permanent roadblocks, but as feedback. They analyze what went wrong, adjust their strategy, and continue forward with greater wisdom. This approach creates a cycle of continuous improvement, where each failure contributes to eventual success. Those who quit after failure never reach this stage. They miss the lessons embedded in struggle and forfeit growth opportunity. Persistence also enhances problem-solving skill. When you refuse to quit, you are forced to confront challenges head-on, generating creative solutions and alternative strategies. Problems that would overwhelm someone who gives up become opportunity to innovate and improve. Persistence pushes you to think critically, act decisively, and remain resourceful in the face of difficulty. Over time, this problem-solving ability becomes a habit, strengthening both personal and professional capacities. Another important element is that persistence reduces the influence of fear. Fear often paralyzes people, preventing action or prompting premature surrender. Those who persist act despite fear, developing courage through repeated experience. Each time you confront fear and continue, it loses power over you. Persistence creates momentum that carries you forward, even in situations where anxiety or doubt is present, allowing you to face challenges that would otherwise seem insurmountable. Persistence also influences consistency, which is critical for long-term success. To achieve meaningful results, effort must be sustained over time. Persistence ensures that action continues, even on days when motivation wanes, circumstances are unfavorable, or energy is low. This regularity creates habits, builds momentum, and ensures that progress compounds. Those who persist consistently outperform those who rely solely on bursts of effort or temporary motivation. Another dimension of persistence, impact on leadership and influence. Leaders who demonstrate persistence inspire others to act with determination. Persistence models commitment, resilience, and dedication, encouraging teams and communities to adopt similar attitudes. Those who lead by example, refusing to quit in the face of challenges, create a culture of accountability and tenacity, reinforcing collective progress and shared goals. Persistence also fosters long-term vision and purpose. Immediate results are rarely evident when pursuing significant goals, and it is easy to become discouraged by slow progress. Persistence allows you to maintain focus on the bigger picture, understanding that incremental steps are building towards substantial achievement. The ability to endure effort without immediate reward is what separates those who achieve extraordinary outcomes from those who abandon their goals prematurely. Another key element of persistence is that it strengthens motivation over time. Motivation may fluctuate, but persistence ensures that action continues regardless. As progress accumulates, motivation is reinforced by visible results, creating a positive feedback loop. Each small victory fuels continued effort, making persistence both the driver and the product of sustained motivation. Persistence also enhances adaptability under pressure. Life is unpredictable, and challenges often arise when least expected. Those who persist develop the mental agility to navigate setbacks, revise plans, and continue forward with renewed strategy. Persistence trains the mind to remain focused on the objective rather than being derailed by temporary obstacles, ensuring steady progress even in the most adverse conditions. Another critical aspect of persistence is that it builds self-respect and integrity. By following through on commitments to yourself and your goals, you reinforce your reliability and personal accountability. Each time you persist despite discomfort, doubt, or fatigue, you demonstrate self-discipline and honor your promises. This self-respect translates into greater confidence, stronger relationships, and a deeper sense of purpose. Persistence also nurtures resourcefulness. As challenges arise, persistent individuals are compelled to find creative solutions, leverage available resources, and maximize opportunities. The act of refusing to quit encourages innovation, adaptability, and strategic thinking. Over time, persistence transforms obstacles into stepping stones, building not only results, but also the skills necessary to tackle increasingly complex challenges. Another dimension is that persistence amplifies the power of incremental progress. Small, consistent efforts may seem insignificant on a daily basis, but when repeated over months and years, they compound into extraordinary outcomes. This principle is evident in all areas of life, from skill development to business growth to personal transformation. Persistence ensures that every effort contributes to long-term progress, turning ordinary actions into extraordinary results. Persistence also strengthens resilience to external pressure. People and circumstances may challenge your commitment, create doubt, or introduce obstacles. Persistent individuals develop the mental toughness to remain steady, unaffected by criticism, skepticism, or temporary setbacks. They maintain focus on their goals, drawing strength from internal determination rather than external validation. Another important aspect of persistence is that it encourages reflection and continuous improvements. By committing to a goal and persevering, you encounter both successes and failures that provide valuable insights. Persistent individuals analyze these experiences, adapt their strategies, and refine their approach. This cycle of action, reflection, and adjustment ensures that effort is continually optimized for maximum impact. Persistence also enhances the ability to seize opportunities. Opportunities are often fleeting and require readiness and action. Those who persist are consistently engaged, prepared, and willing to act, increasing their likelihood of capitalizing on opportunities when they arise. In contrast, those who quit or act sporadically often miss critical moments that could change the trajectory of their lives. Another key element is that persistence cultivates mental toughness. Enduring challenges, overcoming obstacles, and continuing forward despite discomfort strengthens the mind. Persistent individuals develop confidence in their ability to handle difficulty, solve problems, and achieve goals. This mental toughness becomes a self-reinforcing trait, enabling them to tackle increasingly ambitious objectives with courage and resilience. Persistence also builds legacy. The results of sustained effort extend beyond immediate outcomes. They shape the impact you leave on others, your community, and the world. Persistent action influences relationships, inspires others, and creates long-term value. It demonstrates commitment, leadership, and integrity, leaving an enduring mark that transcends personal achievement. Ultimately, persistence is the defining factor that separates success from failure, transforms setbacks into lessons, effort into progress, and challenges into opportunity. It is not talent, luck, or circumstance alone that determines outcomes, but the refusal to quit, the willingness to continue despite adversity, and the commitment to long-term goals. Persistence creates momentum, builds character, strengthens resilience, and ensures that effort compounds into meaningful results. In life, persistence is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. Every challenge faced, every obstacle overcome, and every small action repeated contributes to eventual success. Those who cultivate persistence understand that achievement is a marathon, not a sprint, and that consistent, determined effort is the vehicle for turning potential into reality. By embracing persistence, you create a mindset, a habit, and a force that propels you forward, shapes your identity, and ultimately determines the magnitude of your accomplishments.